Good evening, everybody. Welcome to round 3 of ASR's GT3 World Championship, powered by Antara Resort Style Living. And if you're a fan of Tupac Shakur, we're putting it down for California. We are jet setting halfway around the world from where we last were in Portugal, and we land in the great state of California, just outside of San Francisco, in a little place called Salinas. And you find this little gem of a circuit which has been a mainstay in sports car racing, not just in the US of A, but also internationally for many, many years. It's Laguna Seca. It's the first time we've been here since the very first GT3 decider in 2018. And unlike back then, tonight it's a pair of 30-minute sprint races. My name's Steve DeVries, and alongside me tonight for this one is just a two-man show. When it's normally three, it's a big welcome to Josh Baggs.
Evening, Nether. Good to be here for Laguna Seca, and if Lee's listening, shout out to him. We're looking forward to when you get back. Shame you can't be here tonight, but yeah, looking forward to another twin sprint here in Laguna Seca. The last time people remember it was for the chocolates, and even meant that we instituted a new rule at the end because Brock Harvey managed to sort of cheat the system almost and still get classified. But looking at a interesting race today, because all of the top 5, in fact, basically anyone who's within QE of the lead of the championship is here tonight. So I believe 18 drives tonight. It's going to be quite competitive.
Yeah, we're looking at some good numbers at the moment. A few late entries arriving in the server as we speak. One of the former race winners in the championship race so far has just arrived in Luke Rosella, but we are looking at a good, healthy field, 18 cars at the moment, and it is very, very tight in the championship race after only 2 rounds and 3 races. We will have a look at the point score in just a few moments' time, just so we can illustrate how close it is. But this, you're right. Back in the day, the new rule came in that about completing the final lap at a minimum distance, or a minimum speed rather, or time of the race winner, because I think Brock Harvey had some dramas and he crawled around for about 9 minutes, I think it was, and actually got to the line and was classified. He was in with a hunt for the championship title. That one went to Lewis Wedding in the very, very first GT3 season in a 90-minute race. But this is going to be a bit of a different dynamic, Bagsy. I think that the sprint format probably suits this circuit a little bit better than the longer distance format, particularly seeing some of the guys and the times that we're setting the pace. It's not record setting pace compared to what we had 3 years ago, but the pace is very, very hot.
Yeah, it certainly is, and very little to choose between the top 5, 6, 7 really. There's a second between them, but it's basically nose to tail the whole way down the field, and qualifying is going to be very interesting in about 6 minutes time once people start to take out the fuel and see who ends up where. But yeah, the 90-minute race was much more of a strategic battle of wheels, whereas now we'll just be seeing who can go for it and go for it constantly. We don't think there'll be fuel issues for the drivers. They shouldn't have to fuel save, but we're not 100% sure some of the thirsty cars might have issues.
Yeah, we're hoping it's not like Melbourne, where there were a few cars that had to stop late in that race. It's a circuit where you're on the throttle quite a long time, and it's a bit of a bigger circuit as well. It's a little bit different here. You can spend a bit of time sort of just babying the car through some corners. There are some spots where you can make sure you've got an insurance policy for fuel, and I think a few drivers have been doing the numbers to make sure that they are indeed safe. But let's take a little bit of a look at the season so far, and where we've been and what we've done. So we started a couple of weeks ago, about 5 weeks or so ago now, in Melbourne at Albert Park. It's a pair of sprint races, and Luke Rosella took the chocolates on both occasions, and he led the championship at that point quite comfortably. Off to Portugal, to just outside of Lisbon, to Estoril, and a first ever victory in ASR competition over the years he's been contesting for Greg Tara, and a much deserved win. And now we are off to round 3, as we said, to Salinas, California, which is just outside of San Jose and San Francisco, just to the south there. and the dual sprint format that was so popular last year returns. And here is the track. 11 turns, 3.6 kilometres the distance, with 23 laps is the estimated duration per race tonight. There are two, so there's 2 qualifying sessions. There are 2 race sessions. Bagsy, we don't think that those track records from 2018 will be under serious threat tonight because the group has been, or the cars have been re-BOP'd since, but still, there are some very, very close times on the practice timing tree right now. But where do you make the time? Where are the parts of this track that you can make it, and where's the parts of the track that you can lose it?
Just looking at that track record, just quickly sidebar this one. The quali track record of 121.94. It's only a second away for Greg Tara, and I'm not sure if he's actually gone out and done low fuel flying laps or not, but if he hasn't, then there's the potential for him to have enough fuel there to gain a second. So I don't know how, I could be entirely wrong here, and that's his fastest pace, but there's a potential maybe for the race lap record, probably not, but the quali one, it might be a little bit different. But on to what you were saying, there are plenty of places to lose time here. It's a lot harder to gain the time. Going into the first corner, you're really trying to pull the car all the way around in the most efficient way possible. But if it's downhill braking, you've got the little kink just before the hairpin that can cause the car to become unsteady. So it's so easy to lose time there. Of course, we've got the corkscrew. You got to nail that exactly right, or you'll get a track cut, and people are probably going to lose time there just because they're trying to be cautious, because a drive-through penalty is going to absolutely ruin your sprint race. You'd hope that people aren't going to get up that many penalties, but it is a difficult corner, and it's the last part of the final sector, and coming into the last corner is your best chance to gain time, especially at the start of your flying lap for qualifying, because you've got to just really try and widen out that corner as much as you can so you can get on the power and blast down the straight.
On top of that, a few drivers have been struggling with a couple of corners tonight. One of them is the corner that precedes heading up the hill to the corkscrew. There have been a few drivers running wide and finding some issues with the outside of the track. I think a couple of terrain imbalances. You can see this is the corner they're coming up to now if you're watching the video just along in the backs of the graphics screen there. This corner here, a few drivers running a bit wide, and a few drivers also struggling just with the corner immediately after the corkscrew. So as you come down the corkscrew, which the video is about to do now, come through the left, down through the right. This next corner, the one that runs to the left, is very, very tricky. Getting the line right, getting the speed right, is very, very important to finishing the lap off, because it's a very long third sector. First sector is pretty short. Second sector is only really 2 corners and 3 straights, and most of your time loss, if you find yourself losing time, likely to come in the final sector. We are seeing a wild variety of final sector times. I think in some cases, some drivers losing up to 2 seconds relative to the race or the current practice leader. So it can be a part of the course that we do see a bit of action tonight, but it'll be interesting just to see the different lines and the different ways that people tackle some of these corners, because different cars and different characteristics, it will be a little bit challenging, I think, for a few people.
Yeah, we have a few people in guest cars today as well that may be having a bit of a problem with getting used to their cars. Although, that being said, currently Hans Brunswick up in 7th place in his GTR, only a second off the ultimate pace. So quite a good showing for him currently in practice, which has just finished. So we'll be ticking to qualifying soon. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see which cars are the best at making their way through this track, because it's a track that doesn't have super long straights. The front straight is really the longest straight on the track, and it's more of a curve, honestly. And you don't really get a chance to stretch the legs of these cars. So it's going to be down to who's got their car dialed into the corners and absolutely able to get the power on early and fast.
Yeah, spot on. It's all about when you get to particularly the right point in the corner, how quickly you can get your right foot to start applying the accelerator pedal. as to where you make your time off. Now we've just got a couple of drivers just finishing off their last runs in practice, and then I imagine we'll be straight into qualifying. There's a few, I think all the drivers are done, so we're just waiting for the session to tick over, and we'll be good to go. Top time in practice is headed by Greg Tara with a 1:23 flat, which, as you said, it's only a second off the ultimate pace, but usually at the back end of these practice sessions is when we tend to start seeing drivers really get into, I guess, a quali mode, and start to do those low fuel runs. So it may be that the 23 flat is the time that we might look to see for the likes of Greg Tara when we get to the quali session in just a few seconds. Just waiting for everything to be in order, and we can then take you to some live pictures. Third round of 10 in this year's championship as well, so it's already, pretty close to over the 1/3 distance mark, and there's some really, really good tracks to come. We've got Interlagos and Nürburgring. We've got the finale at Bahrain, Monza as well, still to come. So there is a lot of racing still to go, and plenty of, interesting storylines to plot. And of course, if Michael, the Fladman Zalavari, is watching along in the live stream, g'day to you. There are no comments in the live chat just yet, but we do look forward to seeing you back in the box for round 4. And it looks like we have a little bit of on-track activity getting ready to get underway here. And a few cars just sat up in the garages, just waiting for the timer to tick down. And indeed, we are officially, according to the server settings, in qualifying for the moment. Now, there's a few drivers that didn't set really any real competitive times in that latter part of the session. There was Luke Rosella, who won the opening 2 races at the Melbourne Sprint at Albert Park. We didn't see him last week, or last round rather. So he's mid-table in the points championship at the moment. We will take a look at the points between qualifying and the race, so everyone can see the lay of the land, because it is a rather interesting tale of the tape. Just waiting for some of these cars to make their way down the pit lane. I think we are, saw a car running through the shot there.
Underway in qualifying.
And here we go. So Steve Bolger, we've got eyes on him. There he goes. Termo's facing the wrong way in pit lane. I'm not sure what that's all about. Here we go. We're starting to get a few cars. Oh, there's a little bit of a log jam. There's a few cars trying to get going. And
apparently Scott Morrill was the only one who got the memo of the actual time qualifying was starting, because he's out there in his Audi out the front, way away from everyone else.
And this is a car that he selected, this livery, in the time between the last round at Portugal, when he was a wildcard essentially, and drove the Audi then, and he liked it so much he said, I'd like a permanent Audi in the series please, and actually had a bit of a choice. This livery on this car, car number 14, it's not his usual car number. It's actually a car run by Ryan Ratcliffe in the British GT Championship in 2016, and I think we gave him a choice of about 30 different liveries, and he just picked one out and said, I like that one. It's basically, for you and me, this is actually strikingly resemblant of ARW colours.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. It is pretty much spot on for the colours. And yeah, it's quite a nice livery in my opinion.
Actually, it suits the car quite well, and I think a lot of cars in the British GT3 pack that we've got for AMS, they have a similar look and feel, just with a slightly different colour set. But he's going to have the honour here of being able to set the first time, as there are a couple of cars that have just exited the pit lane ahead of him. Steve Warwick and Matt Cecil are just up the road, and through turn 1 and 2, and now through the mid part of sector 1. Nice and smooth so far for Scott Murrell, and probably will set, I think he was actually 3rd in the practice time, so not too shabby at all. I think it was about a half a second to 6/10 away from Greg Tara's time in the end, so could be a little bit of a dark horse.
Thing is that we don't know what fuel loads the drivers are setting times on. You know, sometimes they like to do quali practice runs, but a lot of time people want to sit on their best laps and try and sort of keep their powder dry, so people aren't entirely sure what's going to happen.
I've only got 10 minutes to set the time, so it's not a hell of a lot. The lap time in the mid 1 minute 20s, you'll probably get about 4 or 5 goes, depending on how long you stay out or if you elect to come in and change a set of boots. And he's now starting to come across this traffic, and that's a good job by Steve Warwick to let him have some track position. Didn't impede him at all. And this will probably be a 24 from Murrell, and it's mid 24, so it's a good opening start, but you've got to build on that from here.
Yeah, he's definitely looking for another go, not letting off at all as he goes back round. And we've had Lime Mitch has gone a second faster than him though, as he comes across with a 1:23.5.
Yeah, but just under 1:23.5. You can see there on top of the screen, and it's a gaggle of cars that are starting to come to the line to put some laps together. There goes Steve Bolger. We're looking at Hans Brunswick, Cracker behind him, pairing this in GTRs, and Greg Tara just did back a shot as well. Brunswick goes in with a 24.3 for second quickest time as it stands right now, immediately usurped by current points leader in Greg Tara with a 24.1. But again, they've got some room to work on here. Little tail slide from Tara. But,
very good opening lap from Lime Mitch though.
Yeah, sensational
like
opening lap.
Straight out and busting it in only 3/10 off of what Tara did in practice. So.
And 0.009 down second sector split, but he's got traffic in the form of Matt Cecil, and Matt Cecil's actually on a flying lap here as well. So this will ruin the Bentley driver's lap, and he knows that he's backed out of that straight away.
Yeah, it's one thing that we didn't really discuss in the lead up is that there is a lot of traffic on this track because it is quite a short track, and yeah, at 10-minute qualifying it is very, very busy and very easy for your lap to come unstuck.
Yeah, it's the shortest track on the calendar that we happen to visit, based on both lap time and distance. Only 3.6 Ks. It is the shortest, and it's the most compact as well. The next fastest circuit that we visit in terms of lap time is actually Magny Cours, which is set to host the third sprint round in about 3 or 4 rounds time from now. That's up in France, and there will be a longer circuit. I think the circuit's about 4 and a bit Ks, but the lap time is only about 10 seconds or so slower than this particular circuit. So it has a lot longer straights as well, so that's probably a bit different compared to Laguna Seca, where the straights are very short.
What's Monza's lap time?
Monza was in the 1 minute 50 bracket, or mid to high 150 brackets, judging on last year's pace. And again, we haven't really got a proper read on the lap times there yet because of the rebalance of all the cars. As we can see, Termo in his new livery now goes to the top of the timesheets with a 23.3, which is a very, very competitive time. And he was in a good position in the last race at Portugal, just sort of fell away a little bit in the end and ended up being missing the podium. And he's giving that one away.
Greg Tara was on a decent lap, but then gave up on it, went into the wall, and is back in the pits. It's going to be interesting to see if he gets out again, because we're already down to 4 minutes left, so he's got to get a wriggle on. He's probably looking for a gap in traffic to try and get into, but it's going to be so hard to find. But yeah, he will only have time for, as he leaves the pits now, maybe 2 flying laps.
This is a massive surprise at the minute. I know there's still a few drivers yet to post some really respective times, but Steve Warwick on a 24 flat in the Bentley, second of all the Bentleys, and that's an astonishingly good time from one of the competitors in ASR, who is in the, I guess, the elder bracket. There are a few drivers that are in their 50s and 60s, and we can count him in that bracket, but it's just been bumped down to 4th by Lewis Wedding. But that's a really good solid time from him with the 24 flat. I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, that being said, just before Lewis Wedding at that time, he was just below, and Warwick, Murrell, Tara and Wedding was less than a 10th between them, which was actually quite it was quite close there for 3rd place. But it is now Wedding securing that third place by about 0.3 of a second.
Wondering if Steve Warwick will go again. He has come into the pit lane. I'm wondering if he's just got a little bit of fuel that he needs to put in for another go, or Greg Tara goes past the stationary Hans Brunswick on the run up to the corkscrew, but he's only on an outlap, so no problems there. If Warwick does want to get going again, he's got about a minute, I think, to actually less than a minute, probably about 30 seconds to leave the lane and get going for another lap, but he may be content to just park it and see what happens next. Lewis Wedding is going for another lap. He's just left the pits, so he thinks there's still a little bit of time left in that Porsche to maybe jump up onto the front row of the grid. Who else is out of position here?
Not out of position, but Mitch is only a 10th off of Termo's time at the moment, coming through the second sector split, so be interesting to see how he manages to go. But Hans Brunswick, he's about where he's at. But Greg Tara down in 6th at the moment. He was our leader in practice and clearly does not have the pace that he had in practice. He isn't quite able to stitch a lap together at the moment.
And Mitch
had a track cut, so probably at the... Actually, no, it wouldn't have been at the corkscrew because his time... Oh, no, the corkscrew is in the final sector, isn't it? So, yeah, it's probably a corkscrew.
Yes, correct. So the second sector split comes up just before they hit the braking zone for the corkscrew. So any one of those last few corners would have been a possibility for the track infringement. So he's got to go again. And he might be lucky to get one more lap after this if he's fueled for it. So it'll be very touch and go for him. Probably about 5 or 6 seconds left on the clock for him to improve there. And see, look at this. Only off his PB by a fraction, but already a 1/10 and a half, or nearly 2 tenths down on the current pole sitter's time. So already just goes to show you that Termo's got it hooked up quite nicely in the Nissan in Sector 1. And for a Sector 2 split, finds a lot of time. So he's actually found a 10th, and Termo, that goes to show you there, look at the time difference to the leader, 0.046. So Termo's Sector 2 is his weak sector at the moment. As Greg Tara bangs a lap together and goes with a 23 flat. So we were waiting and waiting and waiting for it to happen. We have finally got it.
Well, looks like it was a low fuel run that he did in practice, and he's managed to match it right there.
Mitch makes an improvement on his PB, but not by much.
He'll be the last person to get another go if he continues.
Yep, so on he goes as we pick
Tara's
up our leader.
Faster.
Tara's found more time. Tara's found nearly 0.3 of a second here. So this is really starting to wring the neck of the BMW M6 as we try and see if we can pick up drivers that are just coming to the line. Go to the stationary camera. Who have we got here? We've got Lime Mitch going quicker as well. Nathan Higginson does not improve. Neither does Matt Cecil.
Matt Cecil goes up 1.
Goes up 1 spot. And here comes Lewis Wedding, which got eyes on here. We've also got eyes on Greg Tara. Lewis Wedding's time, he stays 4th.
Improves, it doesn't gain. Just Termo's gone into the pits, as has Greg Tara. He's given up on that lap.
And Lime Mitch is up as well, so we need to start paying attention to some of these. And Greg Tara's given it away, so he was up, but he's given it away. Comes into the pits.
Big moment for Lime Mitch at the bottom of the corkscrew.
So there he goes. So here
we are.
He
was 2/10 up going into it, but that might have cost him.
And through the last couple of corners now. So Tara, it looks like, is safe on pole. 2.5 tenths to Termo, and then Lime Mitch, can he make any further improvement? Hans Brunswick and Steve Bolger have definitely made some improvements as well. So they've jumped up ahead of Steve Warwick as Mitch comes to the line. And no improvement from Lime Mitch. So he stays where he was. So if we go to the list, there it is. Another pole position, 2 on the bounce for Greg Tara. He had the pole in Portugal, and he's got the pole in the Northern California area today. Well done.
Very well done indeed. We were sort of wondering about 4 minutes to go if he was going to have a shot at it, but he has done quite well and has taken it at quite a distance, honestly. He's got a whole 2.5 tenths in his pocket to Termo.
2.5 tenths back to this man. And then Lime Mitch with a pretty good performance as well. Remember, he went toe-to-toe with Greg Tara in Portugal and unfortunately came up a little bit short. So that is your top 3 as qualifying winds down. Well, there we go, Bagsy. Good qualifying session, competitive qualifying session. A couple of good notable performances. We already mentioned Steve Warwick, who was up as high as third at one point and is inside the top 10, comfortably inside the top 10, just ahead of Scott Murrell. So he's in seventh place. So for me, that's the standout performance of the night so far for Steve Warwick. And Hans Brunswick, haven't seen him in GT3 machinery since last year, and about 6/10 of a second off the ultimate pace. And you're mentioning that he was about a second off the ultimate pace in practice, so he's found some time in that session too.
He's done quite well to get where he is. Someone who's struggling though is Luke Rosella, who is down in 11th place at the moment. So he's one of the, he was the dominant force in Melbourne, but hasn't had the time for practice, it seems, today. So he's got a bit of an uphill battle, but he will just keep getting better as the night goes on through the first race and into the second one, including that qualifying. So expect him to be at the point end of the top 10 next race, and we'll see he's quite a good overtaker, so we'll see how he climbs through the field as well. Noah Tara also down in 10th. We've seen him with a bit of pace and being up there with his father, Greg Tara. But at the moment, yeah, he's they're bookending the top 10.
They are indeed. Considering the Tara's finished 1 and 3 on the Portuguese podium a couple of weeks ago as well. Noah Tara with a little bit of work to do, maybe not quite gelling with the track, and we'll see how he kicks on throughout the night. Remember, we've also got a second qualifying session for race 2 after interviews for race 1 have concluded. What we will do is have a little bit of a look at this points table after the opening 2 rounds, and you can see there she is very tight at the top. Greg Tara leads the championship by 2 points from Curtis Igmanis, aka Termo. So there's a few little bits of education going on here tonight. And Steve Bolger, the World Series champion from last year, 2 points ahead of the man you just mentioned, Bagsy, Noah Tara. In fact, there's a lot of 1 and 2 point separation gaps throughout the table. I know it's only 2 rounds into the championship and we've had 3 races, but already a very, very tight opening to a 10-round championship. It's there's a even a poor result or a good result, one way or the other, could very easily swing the balance.
Yeah, well, you see, Luke Rosella wasn't able to make it last round, so his 2 wins and 50 points. Yeah, it's enough for fifth, but he's still essentially one of these sprint race wins behind our current leader Greg Tara, who he did have the win last round, but had some okay-ish results in Melbourne. But still, it's enough to keep him at the top of the field at the moment. So it's one of those things where consistency and finishing races is your biggest friend, probably even before finishing them first, really. You can, if you tool around in second, third, fourth, fifth the whole season and other people miss races or retire, you are going to win the championship because you've had the reliability and the staying power to keep up there.
Yeah, spot on. You keep finishing races, you keep accruing points, therefore you at least have something to show for your efforts. So if people fall off the road around you, you can at least hold your head high and say, well, you know what, I picked up some points because I stayed out of trouble, or at least I finished the race. And at the end of the day, we've seen championships won and lost, and people sort of hanging around the top 5 in the championship, not because they've won races, but because they've consistently racked up points finishes every single race that they have driven in. So the likes of Lewis Wedding, who I think missed out last time as well. He was absent from the Portuguese round. He's back out there tonight. So again, very, very costly if you don't finish with the points that you want. You've got to at least try and minimise your deficit if you are turning up each and every week. And for Steve Bolger, that's precisely what he did. He wasn't the fastest man in Portugal. He did lead a good portion of one of the races at Albert Park and had to stop for fuel very, very late in the race. He was trying to work out how that was done, but he has consistently picked up points, and that's why he only finds himself 8 points off the lead in this championship. And I actually think that Steve Bolger's strength probably comes at some of the longer distance races, and the next one on the calendar which I'm just about to go and have a look and make sure that I've got that right. But I know it is a 90-minute race coming up the next time out, and it is at Interlagos, and that's a circuit for Steve Bolger, where we sort of started to get the first glimpses that he was going to be one of the future perennial GT3 front runners, Bagsy, because he went toe-to-toe with a few drivers in that one. Ultimately didn't get the podium finish, but that was in 2019. The year after that, he was on fire.
Yeah, we saw it was one of those things where we were waiting for a long time for him to get his first podium, and he kept getting close, and then same thing for his wins, and accumulated in the excellent GT3 season he had, winning the lot and very bad, always pretty much being the guy to beat every week of that whole championship. And really, it was probably he could have, if things had gone his way, won every single race of that championship. He was just doing so well.
Yeah, I think when we got to when he wrapped it up with a round to go, I think I called it, he had 4 round or race wins, and he had 4 second places from the 8 rounds that had been contested. And Will Devonish, who was fighting him for that championship, really needed a miracle to happen in that race, which never came. The Monza won the 9th round of it all. And yeah, he set that up beautifully and really showed that he could make that Lamborghini work. And the good thing I like about Steve is he's tried a whole bunch of different cars. He's been in all. He was in the Jaguar, in Sprint Series, Lamborghini. He's driven the Audi. He's now in the Ferrari. So I like the fact that drivers elect to change cars and just try something just a little bit different. They don't like to sit still. They always like to find a little bit of something and expand their horizons, because you never know, they might go a little bit quicker. Actually, speaking of the Lamborghini, one of the other drivers of the Lamborghini from last year in Will Devonish, I was actually believe he was eyeing off possibly making this round. I haven't seen him pop up in the statistics, but he did. I think it was the round the day after Supercars. He's like, "I'll see you tomorrow night." I'm like, "We're not racing tomorrow night." "Oh no, we're not racing GT3. It's like, that's the week after. So I mean, he was already keen to get going, but I haven't seen him out there tonight. So I think he might have missed the chocolates.
Yeah, it's which is unfortunate, because the Bolger Devonish battle was quite nice to watch every single week. But you're right in the fact that the way that the points are set up is rewarding consistency. So really, the championship should go down to the wire most of the time if people have equal amounts of DNFs. But for Bolger, he was just so consistent that there was no chance for Devonish to keep up with him. He was just always ahead.
Yeah, this spot on. He was, I think we call him the class of the field. That was pretty much the only real way we can put it. And as we get a little bit of activity here in warm-up, there is the man in question that we have been talking about. It was good to see last year as well that the fact that the majority of the GT3 championships up to that point had been shared between 2 drivers, had been split between Lewis Wedding and Brett Foley, who had 2 apiece through 2018 and 2019. And then Steve Bolger finally arrived on the scene late in that 2019 campaign, and then came out and stormed through the World Series. And then we also then had another one in Pete Savage, who took his maiden title in ASR in the Sprint Series as well. And looking like we're going to have, at this stage, a really good scrap for the year-long, first time year-long GT3 series for this year. And last year was probably the record overall for not only race winners, but for title holders as well. I can't remember the exact number, but I think there was only one person who went back to, or had more than one title across all the series that got run last year. It was a quite incredible amount of people that stepped up, took the win, was consistent enough to take a title out, and well done to all those guys in what was a very difficult year, not just professionally for everybody with COVID and all, but having mentally for everybody as well.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how, like you said, how widespread things were in terms of, because we were sort of used to the Lewis Weddings and Brenton Folleys of the world just absolutely storming away with everything. But the variety of series that we had definitely, I think, helped some people shine in machinery that wouldn't normally have gotten a run. And that is their forte.
On top of that, the numbers, I think at one stage we were maxing out servers as well. We had 26 or 28 drivers turn up for the second round of the season, which was after everything had all just gone to pieces in the world with COVID, and the ASR crew I don't think were quite prepared for it, and we ended up having a few issues there. But then the next round after that was Bathurst, and the numbers were just as high again. So it certainly got a lot of people interested. The Tuesday night time slot was one that it was I think touted at the beginning of the year. It was either going to be a roaring success or a huge flop, and it turned out to be the former. It was one of the most successful seasons we've ever had. The sprint series as well, the Tuesday night time slot really seemed to work well, and in much the same fashion, the Saturday night time slot again being a bit of a different take on things, seeing if it would work. Had its moments. I think the low point was hopefully last time out at Portugal. The numbers were sort of just over like 12, 13 cars, but good solid 18 cars tonight, and that's the numbers I think we're sort of happy to be seeing on track.
Yeah, it's funny, on the big open track we had less people, and on the tight and confined track we have more. So
I think it's a personal opinion about each track, though. I think isn't it?
Yeah, that definitely plays a role. People don't want to either race on tracks that they don't enjoy, or I feel in the case of Portimao, they just don't know quite as well, and you don't want to have to spend the time to really learn it.
Yeah, one of those tracks that we never visited as well, we'd actually seen the layout and thought, you know what, it's actually something a little bit different. And you're right, there were some people that were happy to have a run around it, some people didn't like it. That's, I guess, a personal choice. Big lose from Lime Mitch coming down there at the corkscrew. Did he make the fence? No, he saved it. But one of the things about that track is, some of these tracks you do have a love-hate relationship with. I can sort of see it now. That track probably was one for some. I personally think for a number of people, this track is the same. You have parts of this track that are very, very difficult to master, but if you get it right, it is a very, very rewarding experience. And I think most of the drivers here tonight, I think, are out there because they genuinely enjoy this track.
Yeah, it's a track that feels amazing when you get the lap time put together, and especially when you absolutely nail the corkscrew, because there is track limits there, but if you know exactly where it is and you manage to perfectly slot that gap and take the fastest line through there, it is very, very satisfying.
Antara Resort Style Living replay. We have actually got something to queue up here. This is an example of what's going on at the final at the corner just before heading up to the corkscrew. Here's Nathan Higginson. A few drivers starting to run a little bit wide here, and then there's that huge little verge there that you can just see on the outside there. A bit of a change in what do we call that? A change in gradient and the way the grass is done. And if you take it too fast, that is the end result.
There is a piece of invisible geometry there as well that people are running into as well.
I think there's probably something
potentially
buried under the earth there that's causing that, but that is a corner we pointed out at the beginning when we looked at the track map that a number of drivers have struggled with and come to grips with. Some drivers will have that corner dialed in, I think, pretty well, because it is part of the middle sector, which is the shortest sector of the lap at around high 22s and low 23 seconds is the benchmark time you want to be looking for.
Like, time has expired on the warm-up, and we'll be going to the race shortly. There's a few people just finish up their laps.
Yeah, a few people just setting a couple of times, I think, and some of them are actually on non-time laps, and then we're watching certainly as one of those. And Nathan Higginson aboard the HME BMW car 00, and I think everybody is the last few cars are either coming into the pit lane or they have decided to call it quits. And I think Higginson is probably one of those that will come to the line and just probably coast across the line. I think he actually is the last man on the track that is close to setting some sort of resembled lap. And
maximising track time.
And maximising his track time, exactly. So for him, done and dusted. It's probably not too far away for us to get ready for the first of the 30-minute sprint races for this evening.
Like we are heading across now, so we have 32 minutes on the clock because we of course have the formation lap to take into account as well.
Yes, and there's a little bit of a different protocol, I think we can call it, with how all this works these days. So we've got the Scott Nolan manually driving the safety car. And there he is at the head of the queue. I know it says 1 there. There will be a little adjustment that that does get made for that. And we're just waiting on a couple of other drivers to sort themselves out and fill up the grid. Here we go. Good healthy grid, as we said, 18 cars. Will be interesting with the front row of Greg Turra and Termo when all this gets going. And then a couple of the Bentleys in there as well inside the top 10. Actually, the third Bentley of Orja Mishra, the only one outside the top 10. There he is. He's the second blue Bentley in the shot there, about middle of the pack. So that's where 11th spot is. So pole is on the outside, driver's right. And away we go for the formation lap. Bagsy, let's have a look at our grid for race 1.
Yes, so in first place it's Scott Nolan in the safety car, but he's not really, it's just the safety car for today. First place is Greg Turra, the excellent qualifying performance, 3/10 ahead, or correction, 2.5 tenths ahead of Termo in the very nice Termo Motorsport GTR. Following up him in third place is Lime Mitch, who's also right on the pace and is the first of the All-Australian Racing Bentleys. Lewis Wedding in fourth place in the Icebreak Porsche. Hans Brunswick is in fifth place with an excellent qualifying performance after being a bit further down in practice. It's the second GTR on the road. Steve Bolger has got his red Ferrari in sixth place, and he'll be looking to assault the top of the podium positions to try and improve his championship standing. Steve Warwick with an excellent qualifying in his Bentley, up in 7th position. He's done quite nicely for himself with a very good lap. Scott Murrell in 8th place in the Audi, in the ARW, as we said before, coloured Audi, not branded, but we'll sort of claim it anyway if he does well. 9th place, Ujrit Mishra in another one of the AAR Bentleys. Noah Turra in 10th place, like we said earlier, the Turras bookending the top 10. Luke Rosella starts from 11th in the Porsche. He'll be looking to make his way up the field. Nathan Higginson starts 12th. Taipan in 13th. Matt Cecil starts in 14th. Cracker in his GTR is 15th. Brian Walsh, another GTR, starts 16th. And it's all GTRs at the back of the field with Glenn Miles starting 17th. Dane Liccardo has not made it to the track, starting from the pit lane.
There he is, starting in the pit lane as we cycle. Safety car is in, which means Greg Turra has control of the GT3 field, and there is an acceleration zone. They have to wait until they just get to the little white line that is just coming up at the head of the queue. There it is, you can see it there, and the race is now officially underway, and Greg Turra gets the nice little jump, gets a couple of car lengths gap already, and leaves Lewis Wedding to make an assault not only on Termo but to head off Lime Mitch as well, and he's made a couple of spots, so that's a good move, good solid move early from Lewis Wedding. Termo's out in the marbles. He's going to lose about 2 or 3 spots. He's lost one to Mitch, he's lost one to Hans Brunswick, and he slots into P5 just ahead of Steve Bolger.
Yeah, terrible start for Termo from 2nd down to 5th. That is not what he wants. Bolger is already up a place now as well. Greg Turra in first has had a nice easy run, but Lewis Wedding is already up to him and looking very, very racy at the start here. Lime Mitch will be happy to have maintained position, and back in the pack we can see one of the AAR of Mishra absolutely all over the back of Steve Warwick as they come up the hill.
Here is that battle from the onboard cam from Ultra Mishra as they head up towards the corkscrew for the first time. A couple of cars that went wide at the back, a shot at the corner before the hill leading up to the corkscrew, but no way through for Ultra Mishra at this stage. He's got Luke Rosell, AAR team principal, right behind him as well. I'm wondering if there's going to be some messages going on there. As Murrell's wide at set the third last corner, so too was Higgins, and there was a couple of cars that went wide at that corner. Including Matt Cecil was the third one. So there was maybe a few drivers, again, stepping out of that really awkward groove. You have to get right through that part of the course, and it's unfortunately cost a few of them rather dearly.
It's up 2 positions already and forcing Ultra Mishra to go very defensive into turn 1. And Mishra just parks it on the apex and does not let Rosella through, but Rosella, it seems like it's inevitable that he's going to get past him. He makes a dive up the inside into turn 2,
Mishra
and
Mishra space, and then just open the door for not only for Rosella but for Noah Tara as well. So that's cost Mishra 2 spots there.
Yeah, that is not what Mishra was looking for. He is going backwards at the moment after a good start. It was unfortunate for him. So yeah, a big winner off the start was definitely Lewis Wedding, up 2 places into second position. Lime Mitch held his place. Brunswick gained position too. So 4th and looking at an assault on a podium for Hans Brunswick at the moment as we take the corkscrew for the second time. And still only half a second covering the top 2, a second for the top 3.
Check out the slide job from Lewis Wedding as he came over the rise of the corkscrew on a change of direction. The tail of the ice brake Porsche wanted to kick right out there, and he caught it really nicely. So he's staying lockstep with Greg Tara at the moment, and you can see Lime Mitch is not letting these guys get away either as we get our first racing laps come in, and 24.593 for Tara, 24.645 for Wedding, and a 24.694 for Lime Mitch. So not too much separating these top 3 in the shot at the moment.
Big contact at the back. Taipan is flying through the air, coming through turn 1, back down 14th place now. There was 3 wide going across the start-finish line, and it did not go well.
Time to have a look at that one on the Antara Resort Style Living replay then. He was in a little bit of a battle there with, looks like Cracker, and Murrell was recovering as it came to the line. And you're right, they were trying to go 3 wide there. Oh, and there was a touch from Murrell, and I don't think it was intentional, but it has, wow, it has served Taipan quite nastily into the outside wall there. So caught it perfectly, Bagsy, the contact and the end result, and Taipan will hopefully, looks like he is and is indeed soldiering on.
This car's clearly made out of good stuff because he is continuing on, probably slightly dizzier than he was before. It looks like Glenn Miles has had a spin as well. He's lost his bonnet.
And
like
he's
his first second, and he's out. So he's out along with Dane Licata, who didn't actually manage to take the start of the race, unfortunately. So 2 retirements in the first couple of laps, unfortunately. But back at the front is still Tara from Wedding, who sets the fastest lap from Lime Mitch, and it is very, very close. They're dropping Turmo, and Brunswick a bit. Actually, Turmo's passed Hans Brunswick at some point. So.
Correct, he has on that last lap. Turmo did manage to sneak past Hans Brunswick, and now Brunswick finds himself under pressure from Steve Bolger in the Ferrari, and Bolger will be looking for a way through pretty quickly. I must say Steve Warwick's doing a pretty good job to hold down 7th place at the moment. He hasn't cracked under pressure from Luke Rosella and Noah Tara just yet. Still a long way to go in the race. We did predict it would be about 23 laps the distance per race. But Turmo did sneak through. It's caught it on the last lap. Didn't see what corner it was, but it was a much slower lap than once. We had 26.6 to Turmo's 25.4 on the previous lap to make that move past. And incidentally, both Lewis Wedding and Lime Mitch were quicker the last time around than Greg Tara. Not by much, 10th to maybe a half 10th, but they did apply the blowtorch just a little bit on that last lap. Here is Lewis Wedding still trying to keep in touch with the BMW, and looks like Lime Mitch maybe has lost a little bit of time as Tara responds quickly and puts in a lap time 2/10 quicker. Immediately surpassed by Termo. So the fastest lap of the race, changing hands on several occasions in the opening 5 laps.
Yeah, and Bolger and Brunswick, they have got ahead of, it looks like Rosella and Noatara have got past Steve Warwick, so he's dropping back a little bit, but he was under a lot of pressure there. So Luke Rosella now looking to join the Bolger and Brunswick battle. Try saying that one fast, and which is still kicking off. Hans has not had any chance to relax because Bolger has been in his wheel tracks 100%.
We've got a replay of what happened to Steve Warwick. So he was a little bit wide for the third last corner and ended up on the outside of the track and went a bit wide, and that opened the door not only for Rosella but also for Noatara. Even Noatara almost got up the inside there as well, and it was on right till the very last corner as well. So
yeah, he almost absolutely mugged Luke Rosella there. And then 2 for 1.
And then it looks like it's time for Steve Warwick to get his defensive act together as well, because he's going back into battle with George Mishra again, who was applying the pressure to him in the opening phase of this race, and still is.
We're already 7 laps in, and still all stations same in front. It's interesting, the different line. Tara doesn't really go for the apex. He goes for an earlier apex than Wedding. Wedding seems to, he opens up the corner a bit more. Wedding goes for that later apex, you know, the power. So mid-corner, he's a lot wider than Tara is.
Not looking here from Lewis Wedding's ice brake Porsche. Choosing the steering wheel, you can see there. You can see the different lines that Greg is taking out in front of him. Does he flip the brakes on the run in? He does. He actually carries the brake through the left-hand up, which is turn 7, up the hill here, and where's the brakes being hit just before the mark there. You can see it's a really tricky corner to brake for, Mags, in ahead with the corkscrew, because you've got to brake and then you've got to turn the car at the same time. You've got to keep the car over to the right-hand side to make sure you can open up the corner. Is if you brake in a straight line, you end up sort of going right down the middle of the corner, and then your turn in and subsequently your exit is very, very severely compromised.
Yeah, and you're having to do all this without being able to see the corner that you're braking for as well, because of the crest and the hill. It's quite the ridiculous corner, and yeah, it is a passing opportunity. It's very hard. Oh, speaking of, Lime Mitch has gone for it.
Big send.
He hip and shouldered Wedding. Is he going to give the position back, or is he claiming that as fair game, my position, as Wedding goes wide again?
I'm wondering if he's claiming that as fair position. We might go back and have another bit of a look at that.
Yeah, we can have a look at the replay and make our very professional judgments.
Well, here we go. Here it was here. So the traditional line is going out to the side here. I think Mitch just came in maybe a little bit too hot. Maybe he missed his braking marker. I think that was probably opportunistic at best.
Yeah, I think that might be a mistake turned into a pass, and you know, he's not. I'm gonna call that one as a fair one, but lucky. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have ended a little bit worse if it had.
Oh no, he's letting him through.
All right, there we go. So there is a change of position, and that is actually fair game, because the drivers have been told if you need to make a redress, you've got to get it done very, very early on in the piece. And not only that, this has now drawn Termo back into this battle as well. So you see here, well, very taily off the final corner is Termo. But he's now been dragged back into this one. And further afield, you probably just saw it in the back, a shot there. We've got Hans Brunswick. He's just slowly edging away from Steve Bolger. Both Rosella and Noatara have joined this little gaggle of cars now. So it's a 4-car battle over 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th essentially.
Yeah, they're absolutely going for it back here, and it's really a cordoning up. Luke Rosella looking for this point to try and get further ahead. You know, he's trying to gain points in the championship, and it's going to be very difficult for him to do that if he doesn't get past a bunch of these guys, because the people ahead of him in the championship are ahead of him on the road.
Yeah, precisely there, and subsequently for Termo, he needs to be ahead of Greg Tara to take the lead in the
Oh,
championship. Oh, bit of contact.
sorry.
We just noticed that. I just saw there was some bit of part go flying in the background between, was that Wedding and
Was
Line
Wedding and
Mitch
Mitch.
again. So again, time for a little bit of a look at the Antara Resort Style Living replay. And this happened just at turn 7 on the run up the hill. Now, did somebody run wide, or was there a pass here happened? Oh, Wedding was a little bit slow. Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
as you were, gentlemen, I think that might have been maybe a signal about reminding about what happened.
Yeah, but that's not the racing line that Lewis Wedding was taking, and that was a bit naughty in my opinion. He's actually what's
He's actually dropped down the order.
He's now in 10th. Yeah, what's happened there? I totally missed.
He must have had a spin in the last lap, because I'm going to have to go back and have a look at this one from the replay as well, and we'll have to drag it up. Yeah, he's been off the road, so actually got it here. He actually has spun through the grass. We're going to have to rewind this back a little bit so you can see what happened here. So as he came through the third last corner, another one of the corners drivers has struggled. He got on the curb, overcorrected, and tried to keep straight. Oh, and hit another one of those little ruts in the ground, and had to recover. So that's essentially his race ruined, and had to rejoin.
Well, we've got it's ongoing into the corkscrew with Brunswick, Bolger, and Rosella. They are all looking like they're going to have a massive accident at the moment.
Well, this is big moment for these guys right now, because this is. Could very. Oh, he's wide, and that open.
Oh, he's telling me it's wide though. Oh,
well done, Steve Bolger, to get that pass done. And Rosella should go with him here. No, Tara's trying to force the issue on the outside of the final corner, and there's probably fared the worst out of that, because he's lost a lot of track position now relative to the others.
Zwick isn't giving up on his position yet either.
No,
and he's going to slot ahead. And he's covered the inside line, and look at that. I'm amazed Brunswick pulled that up and didn't spear into the side of Bolger there as well. That was that Bolger would have just been crossing his fingers and his toes, hoping that Hans pulled it up there, because it was not looking good for anyone there. I was just about to comment that Hans is doing his best Jarno Trulli impression, but then unfortunately the train has been broken.
Well, it's still a pretty decent little train. They've now lost Steve Bolger, so he's gone and started to pull away here, and leaving Brunswick to fend off Luke Rosella, who is thinking, showing a nose down here at 7, and Bolger's wide at turn 7, and now this goes back to the way it was. So actually, in fact, Bolger's lost a lot of an extra position, gone to the back of the train, and now Brunswick is catching up to Lime Mitch, who's made a mistake in the middle sector as well. Yeah, he's had a really poor middle sector.
Yeah, well, he's behind Termo now, and nowhere near the front though. So we've been enthralled by this, and we've missed this is now a battle for the podium.
30 seconds ago, Lime Mitch was ahead of Termo, and 30 seconds later, he has had a moment in the middle sector and has given Termo a free run here. Termo's actually just done his second fastest lap of the race. He's only about 13 thousandths of a second slower than his PB. Incidentally, fastest lap of the race is Lime Mitch in P3 with a 1:24.0, which came on lap 10, the lap before he made the mistake that he made. But he's right in the thick of this battle now. But the margin from Greg Tara to Termo is 3 seconds and decreasing.
Yes, I know we're talking about the gap at the front, but Steve Warwick is seeing the gap to this pack ahead of him decrease because of all the fighting they're doing, and he's actually starting to slowly bring him back.
And him and Ujjwal Mishra are starting to just to nip away a little bit at time here. Let's get a readout as we get to the second sector marker, because they're going through turn 7 now. And this is what we were talking about earlier, Bags. If you keep it clean, you keep it on the island, and you just finish, rack up points, you're going to do pretty well. Now, the gap there to 7th, you can see there, is just on 3 seconds. So it's not insurmountable if the guys ahead continue to fight. And let's have a look, stay with Steve Warwick. We'll get a readout when it comes to the line, because you probably can't see them off in the distance. And you might see them in one of these shots in just a few seconds when we come around the final corner here. So Blackshaw's Bentley car 63, there they are. There is that group. just ahead of him, and as he crosses the line this time around, margin is 2.9, so he's gained a further 10th over the course of that, and that's a PB for Steve Warwick as well. Luke Rosella ahead of him, 26 flat, and some of the other drivers in there with 24.8. The fastest in the group was Steve Bolger at a 24.6, so he's actually doing quite well here, Steve Warwick, just to hang in there and just pray that these guys ahead continue to trip over themselves.
Yeah, speaking of tripping over themselves, Bolger's just got past Noah Tara, and Rosella came very close to passing him as well, but it's in the end stayed as that is. Rosella hasn't quite managed to do it. But like Mitch, he's not really, I mean, he's pulling away, but not at a high rate of knots from Hans Brunswick like they were before when he was up with Greg Tara.
And it's increased by a further 0.2 of a second the last lap as well for the gap here between Luke Rosella and Steve Warwick. So it's hovering, it's maybe about 0.3 of a second or so a lap. It needs to be a little bit more than that, but Warwick doing a commendable job right now as Rosella has to think about ascend down here at the final corner, can't get it done. New fastest lap there for Turmo. He was 0.3 of a second quicker than Greg Tara on the last tour, and that gap is now down to about 2.6 seconds, as you can see on the timing screen there. And
Hans is getting a bit of a lifeline here because of the fighting behind him, and he's definitely keeping Lime Mitch, aware of his presence, and Lime Mitch will know he'll be slightly concerned because he's starting to come alive a little bit, and he's not having to worry about the pressure of Bolger, Tara, and Rosella behind.
Definitely not, and he runs a bit of clear air, and the gap only 8.5 tenths from Brunswick to Lime Mitch, and this will be for the podium spot. He's wildcard in this one, so we haven't got a graphic ready for him to. He does make it to the podium, so you can say third place and talking to Blank. So could be an interesting discussion for post-race.
You know who I don't want to count out of a podium just yet, and that is Lewis Wedding, because he is in 9th place. He's currently behind Ujrit Mishra, but because of all his battling at the front,
I think Mishra's just gone wide. He just went wide, and he's actually dropped behind Murrell as well. So Wedding has snatched that away. And
that's good to know. But Wedding's gained a second on Lime Mitch, or close to a second on Lime Mitch in this lap. It may be the timing slightly lying to me though, but Wedding is definitely on a tear at the moment.
Yeah, here is that move down here. So Wedding, maximum pressure. Ujrit Mishra just applies. There it was. You see, they just lit the rears up, and Wedding was through in a heartbeat. He's a seasoned veteran. He knows when to hold them and when to fold them. He's done quite well there, and he's now, and also Scott Murrell got through too. So they are now right onto the back of Steve Warwick. Now, what do you do if you're Steve Warwick in this situation here, Bagsy? You let him go, or do you hold them off? You've got 10 minutes to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no time like the present to practice racing people, especially trying to keep someone as fast as Wedding behind you. It's a good way to learn, but you just need to be careful you don't potentially end both your races. I don't think it's. I think that he won't be expecting to pass any of the people ahead of him, so he's just happy to battle as Wedding. It's a nice clean move down the inside into the corkscrew. Oh, Mishra came flying into the background there. Definitely
smart move from Steve Warwick. Sidestepped the argument, let Lewis Wedding through when he knew he was beat, and Wedding, as you rightly said, is on a bit of a tear. The last lap around for him was a 24.7.
Just ahead, Tara Rosella side by side behind Bolger, and might be going 3 wide again. We saw how well that went last time into the first corner. Bolger's getting out of dodge at the moment, but Rosella for the inside. Oh, he's locked up a wheel.
He has.
Gentle hip and shoulder, and he's got the position.
Pass was on there. I would argue the pass was on, and a little bit of incidental contact like that is not frowned upon all that much. If you make a dive bomb from a mile back, it certainly is. Bolger off the road on the exit of 3 and 4. And I'm wondering if he's feeling the pressure here, Bagsy. We know he's got a quick race car. We know he's got a competitive race car. errors and a few little mistakes starting to creep into plenty of drivers at the moment, and it's not just been in the latter part of the race. It's not like this is an endurance race and it's happening at the back end as you start to get tired. This is just from drivers just pushing the envelope just a little bit too much.
That's the thing, with the sprint
Brunswick
racing,
off. Sorry there, Brunswick off.
No, that's so disappointing for Hans. He was doing such a good job as well.
So we just saw him through the shot there. He was off the road at the third last corner again, and that then moves these guys up one spot. There he is in the background there, just having to recover. Oh, and he's had a spin off the final corner as well. So through goes Lewis Wedding, through goes a bunch of cars, through goes Warwick, through goes Murrell, and through goes Orchard Mishra. So what was a promising run for Hans Brunswick, unfortunately, has gone the complete opposite direction in the latter third of this race.
Yeah, so the latter third of that lap, he just went from contending for a podium to, yeah, now outside the top 10. So that's extremely unfortunate for him. At the front, Tara is being still closed in upon by Turmo. He's getting there bit by bit. There is enough time left still. We've got 7.5 minutes remaining. The time's gone very quickly. And Turmo will have, if he keeps his pace up, he will have a shot at the win. What I was about to say before we saw Hans go for a spin was that in the longer races, we do see drivers start to make mistakes due to fatigue. And here, I think it's still due to fatigue, but it's just because they're trying to push so hard, because you can push so hard. You know, you've got those mistakes that are, you know, just, it's similar to the mistakes they're making from fatigue, where it's just trying to push the envelope a little bit too much. You know, you lose a little bit of concentration and suddenly bang, you're like Hans off into the weeds.
Absolutely, and these guys at the front are trading fastest laps each lap around. So the last time it was Greg Tara with a 23.9 to Turmo's 24 flat. And the last time out it was Turmo's 24 flat to Greg Tara's 24.1. So it's really, there's really not much in it between these guys. Greg's trying to stabilise this gap at 1.5 seconds, and so far he's doing an all right job of it. Although Turmo has taken a massive chunk of time out in this first sector alone. You saw it decrease on the left-hand side there. It decreased by nearly 0.4 of a second in the first sector alone. So now this is the phase of the race where if drivers have been doing their homework, they will know what they can do and that they are good on fuel or not good on fuel, or how their tyre performance is. A further 1/10 of a second for Turmo this time around, so maybe he's just starting to wind up the Nissan GTR. Maybe he's just starting to make his move.
Yeah, it is looking more perilous for Greg Tara, but I'm wondering if he's just setting himself lap time and continuing to go for a bit of lap traffic that they'll be coming across soon as well, which could throw a little spanner into things. But Greg Tara 1:24.7, Turmo 1:24.3, 0.4 of a second. And if I'm remembering correctly, Turmo does not have a win in any GT3 series, does he?
Correct. Turmo has been on the podium before, but he has not been a GT3 winner.
He's had other ASR wins though.
He has.
Like in other series, but yeah, not in GT3.
Yeah, he got his maiden supercars podium a couple of weeks ago at Phillip Island. He's won some races in the Track Day Challenge from last year, and has been on podium on numerous series, but he has never stood on the top step of the podium in GT3. And they're now catching Brian Walsh. So the GTR driver moves out the way, lets them both go. That's really good driving from Brian Walsh. They caught him at a good part of the track where he could pull over to the left and let them have the racing line on the right. So it hasn't hampered the drivers too much, although Turmo just continues to take 1/10 of a second out of Greg Tara lap after lap after lap. This lap alone, 2/10 quicker in sector 1, 2/10 quicker in sector 2. Let's get to the line and find out how much quicker over the whole lap he was than the driver of car number 22. Tara gets to the line with a 24.561. Turmo's lap behind, 24.255. So a good 3.5 of a second over the entire lap.
It's absolutely coming down to the wire here. Luke Rosella has had an incident of some kind and is now no longer with Noah Tara and Bolger. He is back down in 11th. He's about 10 seconds behind Hans Brunswick now. So seems like he's had a spin somewhere that we have not seen. But that is unfortunate for him. He'd done such a good recovery drive, and it's all gone now, back down in 11th. And Termo is so close now.
It was on the previous lap for Rosella too, 1:50.6, a terrible lap, so he lost a lot of time. The pack behind as well is split up, so Bolger, Tara, or Noah Tara, Wedding and Co have all split apart. The real focus is on this race win at the front, because they're coming down to 3 minutes and change remaining, and they're on lap 20, so it looks like 23 laps is going to be the duration that we get for this race.
And who is going to finish those 23 laps first? Well, it's still absolutely anyone's guess.
Here's
Termo's having a go.
Shows the nose. From the onboard, you can see there Tara left him a little bit of space on the exit as they ran out of the final corner. And the next opportunity is going to be down here at the turn 2 hairpin. He's right under the rear wing of the M6. Sides to the inside, commands the space, and through goes car 51. Little tail slot on the exit. Tara will get him on the cutback, or will he? He will, but he's on the wrong side as they come up to turn 3, and Termo will hold. That was a heart-in-the-mouth moment for Termo there. The back end of that car got away from him very quickly, and he very nearly went from hero to zero.
Yeah, got onto the marbles there, and it definitely unstabilized the car, destabilized the car, but he held his nerve around the outside, bit of banging of doors, but Termo comes out ahead. 2 minutes to go, and Greg Tara is not looking like he is going to let Termo off super easily as they come up the hill into the corkscrew. As you said, 23 laps looks to be the order we are going to have today, and currently advantage Termo.
Advantage Termo indeed. Now the question is, can he drive away from Tara? He'd been catching him at a vast rate of knots, but has he got anything left to drive away and buy himself an insurance policy for the remainder of this race? That is the telling factor. Tara's definitely not letting him get away with it. You can see the timer counting down there. These guys have been doing lap times in the 1:24s and 25, so they will start this lap with about 1:18 left on the clock. The time will expire pretty much as they get to the final corner, and then they will have one lap more. So it will be 23 laps. Termo's moved the margin out to half a second now. So this is important. This next lap is super important for both these drivers. Can Termo insulate himself from the attack? Can Greg Tara find anything to fight with? Not if he's in the marbles like that.
Oh, that's a free kick for Termo right there. He just needs to hold his nerve for another lap and a half, and he'll have this. Tara is not going to be able to make that time up. Third place is not decided yet either. Lime Mitch is falling into the clutches of Steve Bolger, who is making a late run for the podium, and he is closing in on Mitch in a similar way that Termo closed in on Tara.
And big time too. There was a big disparity in a lap time last time around. Lime Mitch with a 26.2, Steve Bolger with a 24.8, and this round, or this lap alone, Bolger 0.3 quicker in the middle sector. So the Ferrari coming on strong at the back half of this race as well. That mistake from Greg Tara that we saw on camera cost him the better part of 0.6 of a second. It got out to 1.1, but he's actually made a little bit of it back and is now honing back in on the rear of the Japanese missile of a GTR as they start the final lap.
Yep, last lap, 1:24.6 for Termo, 1:24.6 for Tara. There's nothing in it. It's absolutely down to this lap as Termo goes wide.
And so too does Tara. Tara's gone.
Tara's off.
Tara's completely off. Termo went a little bit wide, but Tara got the worst end of that one, and I think that is probably the race win potentially gone. And behind them,
as well.
In comes Steve Bolger with a similar move on what Termo did on Greg Tara, but the wrong way round, and Lime Mitch manages to hold, but Bolger is right there.
Everyone's going wide at the first corner onto the final lap, but geez, this is close here. Termo is now way out in front, 4 seconds ahead of Tara. He should be home and hosed. Bolger is still looking very racy, but he's running out of places to make a move here. That was one of them just there. If Lime Mitch makes this corner perfect, then Bolger will struggle to get him into the corkscrew. Lime Mitch absolutely nails it there. That's what he needed to do. It goes into the corkscrew, and he really only has to worry about defending into the final corner here. Bolger very brave on the brakes. He wants to be as close as possible. Ahead, Turmo is heading towards the final corner and to claim his maiden GT3 win. Bit of a squirrel of the tail. He weaves back and forth, and that is the race win for Turmo in race 1 at Laguna Seca. Greg Tara second. We go back to Lime Mitch and see Bolger. Bolger tries to send it, but Lime Mitch has driven perfectly for this last lap. He'll claim the final spot on the podium, a 10th ahead of Steve Bolger.
What a battle to the end for all the podium positions. That is fantastic racing and a much deserved victory. First GT3 victory. We're talking about Greg Tara's first ever race victory in ASR last week, last round when we had at Portugal. First ever GT3 win for Turmo in ASR competition. So across the first 4 races of the GT3 campaign, 3 different winners, and I guess we couldn't ask for much more than that. And look how happy he looks. He's like the Stig at the moment, isn't he? Just wiggling back and forth. There's probably a huge smile, like a Cheshire cat under that helmet. And I think who could blame him?
Yeah, 100%. That is a very, very good job there from Terry. I don't know if we can go back and get a replay of 7th place crossing the line, because it looked like it was Steve Warwick has ended up finishing where he started in 7th place. So very good job from him. He's just kept it squeaky clean while other people had issues around him. But I feel like it was actually quite close across the line for 7th.
Yeah, we actually have got a replay of this coming actually, so I can actually I can bring that up to you now as they were coming out of the second to last corner. So here we go. So Steve Bolger was in 4th place, and he got Noah Tara in 5th. Lewis Wedding recovered to 6th. But have a look at this. Steve Warwick, probably the what a fine drive this was. Up 2 places where he started. And have a look who he's holding off here. He's holding off Murrell. He's holding off Ujit Mishra, and then Hans Brunswick, who had his moments. And very rarely was Steve Warwick off the road. So I think that's probably one of the best drives we've seen from him in all forms of ASR competition that he has undertaken so far, and thoroughly deserves the 7th place finish there. Murrell 8th, Ujit Mishra 9th, Hans Brunswick the last man inside the top 10.
I'm going to also say Lewis Wedding, after his been a very good recovery drive, almost got Noah Tara in 5th place, who also had a very clean race when all the other people were falling around him. Noah Tara did a good job to keep it clean and gained 5 positions from his starting spot. So very well done to Noah Tara as well.
I do apologise, we've got the wrong graphic up there for the Laguna Seca event. There we go. It's podium presentation time for the first race of the evening. And Bagsy, where do we start?
I think we'll start with 3rd. We'll start with Lime Mitch. Mitch, a bit of up and down there with the people around you, but in the end, a fairly, well, not comfortable 3rd, but a fairly tight 3rd that you didn't really look like giving up on that last lap.
Yeah, it was an alright race. Had the pace at the start and definitely in the midsection, but towards the end definitely started to drop off a fair bit.
I did see that it seemed like the penultimate lap you were really struggling with Bolger behind you, but then that last lap just seemed very smooth and didn't have any issues whatsoever, just placed the car perfectly. Were you worried about Bolger in that last lap, or were you just sort of focused eyes front and hitting your apexes?
I wasn't too worried about him. I was a little bit annoyed he caught up a bit as I couldn't really negotiate traffic too well, but yeah, I think I was just more focusing on keeping the lines because the Bentley's definitely quick in a straight line, so it would have been very hard for Bolger to get me.
Yeah, it's fair enough. Oh, excellent job on 3rd place.
Thank you.
Yeah. We will go to our 2nd place man, Greg Tara. He was our pole sitter and unfortunately pipped in those last couple of laps by Turmo.
Yeah, that's that was. I actually by the end realised I'd fuel saved a little too much, so I was probably a bit slower than I should have been in the early part of the race, because I had a whole another lap's worth of fuel on board that I didn't account for. But yeah, just ran out of tyres because I realised that I actually started the race on my quali set, which I didn't notice it at the beginning, but towards the end, yeah, they were dead and buried.
So it is the sort of thing where even over the 30 minutes, there a bit of fuel saving needs to be done. You can't quite go totally flat, chat,
Nah,
for yourself.
nah, not in the Beamer. I don't know what it's like for anyone else, but you've only got to lift into turn 1 for half the race, and that's enough. Obviously, it's more than enough. So I'd be doing it for less in the next race, but yeah, no, you can't go flat out. I did one test where I went flat out, and I conked out right before the line. Like it's on a knife's edge, so yeah, probably should have gone faster.
We did see in the middle of the race you had a little bit of company, but eventually dropped off. Were you expecting Turmo to come at you so fast at the end?
I was quietly hoping that he would run into some kind of fuel trouble that he hadn't accounted for, or something like that. I thought I could hold him off, but I just started to make a few small mistakes here and there. Kind of had it pegged at 1.7 there for a bit, but yeah, just couldn't keep it on the track when I needed to. And I thought I had the undercut like into turn 1 when he put that move on, but yeah, I just couldn't make it stick for the next one. It's good. It's good fun.
Well, a well fought for second place, Greg, and look forward to seeing what you can do in race 2.
Looking forward to it.
Now we'll move on to our race winner, his maiden win in GT3. Got Turmo here. Turmo, that was a very exciting final few laps, and I'm imagining you felt quite relieved when, after going wide into turn 1 in the final corner, you saw Greg go even wider behind you.
Yeah, I was pushing hard to catch Greg, and eventually got past him, and yeah.
We heard Greg say that he had to fuel save a little bit and maybe too much. Was it the same for you? Were you having to fuel save at all during the race, or were you able to go flat out?
I did a little bit at the start when I was behind Hans.
What about tyres? Were you having any issues with tyres, or did you hear Greg say that he had a bit of an issue?
The last lap, the front right were in the red. They were dead, pretty much.
Well, an excellent race win for you, Turmo, and it was an absolute joy to watch the battle between you and Greg. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, well, now that that's one race down, we have another one to go. Hopefully it can be as exciting as this one, and I believe we'll have a qualifying session for it starting shortly.
Yeah, we definitely will have a qualifying session starting in just a few moments' time, and there are a few new faces jumping into the race for this one, so there'll be a couple extra drivers for us to call, but what we'll do is we'll take a short commercial break, and we'll be back with qualifying 2 on the other side. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. There was just a little selection of the events that are going to be taking place this year in ASR competition. Not only we got GT3 running, Supercars and Super 2 running as well, but there is a number of things coming up as well. The FT50s in RF2 have just started last week, or 2 weeks ago. Second round of those is coming up this week. The big one a lot of people looking forward to is indeed the Enduro Cup, Supercars Enduro Cup, which is the old traditional format, just mixed up a little bit differently, and we'll see how it all goes. We're just getting word that there's a couple of drivers waiting to make their way into the session, and we're just going to hold up for a couple of minutes to make sure they are in. But Bagsy, I guess that gives us a few seconds to digest and process what happened in race 1. There's been some good scraps over the opening 3 rounds of a championship so far too. We cast our minds back to Melbourne. There was some very good scraps for the race lead late in the race before the pit stops came into play for the cars that were a little bit thirsty and the drivers that didn't quite manage their fuel. Last time out of Portugal, there was that build-up to the, I guess the crescendo building up to the end of it, where Lime Mitch was applying the pressure to Greg Tara, and then eventually just fell away, which was a little bit sad to see. And then tonight, we've seen it on a couple of different scales. We saw it, gap, I guess get created, and then it got decreased, and eventually a pass, and then building right up to the end for fighting for the last step on the rostrum as well, and also just up and down the field there were plenty of drivers. So looking like it's going to be one of those years, I think probably one of the better years for GT3 competition. He's got a Mercedes. He's got, yeah, No, we haven't, and it is a front-engine car, that Mercedes, as well. So everyone needs to sort of keep in mind that there are some different strengths and weaknesses in some of these cars, and the Mercedes being the front-wheel drive, the front-engined car that it is pretty decent in a straight line. So it's got similar characteristics to the Bentley, but it doesn't turn the corners or roll the corners as well as some of the other cars, like the more nimbler Porsches and that. But then some of those cars have also got the disadvantage of being a little bit thirstier on fuel. So plenty of things to be factored in. Yes, we do. So Tim Redmond, we can actually bring him up on screen now. There he is. He is in the number 43 Nissan GTR, and is alongside Hans Brunswick in the Team GTR car there. So he's in as a wild card. Incidentally, 43 is his race number. I think. Yeah, the other one is the roadie Mercedes-Benz. So if we pick up roadie, there he is. There are, I'm actually just noticing there is an extra driver. We have got Dane Liccardo, who we know did not take the start in that first race, and I'm just looking to see if I can find out who the extra car is that's in the list, because I did have 23 on my list, and just trying to see if I can work out who the extra one is that has jumped in. Actually, I know Sabrina Ross is there in the safety car, along with a bunch of others, and no, we'll find out. There might be a couple of moves and shakes yet to happen. Actually, we had 19 at the beginning of the last race, but Of course, Dane Liccardo didn't take the start, so there we go. Now it all comes full circle. So there we go. So that makes a bit more sense now. Just about the whole entire field's pretty much filed out of pit lane. The only cars not on the racing surface at the moment are Turmo and Lewis Wedding. Of course, the other two cars that are sitting in pit lane at the moment are the ASR safety car team of Brendan Ross and Scott Nolan. And these guys on your screen here with Nathan Higginson, Scott Murrell and Matt Cecil are the first ones on track. And then behind them, it looks like it was the car of Dane Liccardo, followed by, actually looking to see who else is back there now. There's in the back of the shop, there's a few guys there. Joel Brody's already had a spin on the outlap. So here we go, qualifying 2 underway. Opening half of the lap is front loaded by all the cars as well. There's some cars in some really good positions at the moment with not much around them. Steve Bolger's got Glenn Miles ahead of him as a slower car, but that's a good gap for him to slot into. Steve Warwick's got a pretty healthy air gap. So too Greg Turra and Lime Mitch. They've all found themselves nice little air gaps to just run and set a lap time without the interference of other cars around them. So expect to see the likes of Mitch, Bolger and Greg Turra advance to the top of the timing tree very early on in this session. They are only they're in sector 1 at the moment, so about another minute or so away from posting their times. Higginson tries to straighten this run off the final corner, and a 25 dead is the opening marker. Murrell behind him had a few moments, and immediately everybody starts jumping up the order. So Turmo's 24.3 is definitely not the same sort of pace that we saw in qualifying 1, but it will take a little bit of time to get to that ultimate time. And good to see Liccardo actually has made it out. He is in there behind Turmo. That is the Lamborghini there. He's sat up in position, what is now position 7, as times start to come in. You got a track cut as well there, so I think that would have been probably from negotiating some traffic on that occasion. So he will go again. Straight away P1. So here comes next one that will be interested in Line Mitch. He did say that Bentley was good in a straight line, and pretty good for P2 at the moment, a 10.5 off of Greg Turra. And remember, the pole time did eventually work its way down to a 23 flat, which is the time that we saw Turra set not only in Quali 1, but in practice as well. So expect that number to be lowered. And interestingly enough, Greg Turra, when he set that lap as he goes quicker again in Sector 1, only did it with a purple first sector. So that's a telltale sign as he does set a new purple sector in Sector 1 on this second dash. Yeah, I've been reliably informed that due to that little incident we did capture on the broadcast between him and Lime Mitch, he's actually starting rear of grid to nullify any potential penalty that comes with that, as Turra bails out of this one. Steve Bolger completes another lap and keeps going. And the man I'm looking for now, Tim Redmond, has advanced up the order to P2. Turmo has set a purple first sector. Now, he has gone up the hill. So away they go, and yeah, never mind for that. And a yellow flag here, that'll be for the Murrell spin. Very slow middle sector for Termo, and he has given it away. Steve Bolger now. Purple through the middle sector for Steve Bolger at 28.6. That's the fastest we've seen, I think, from anybody across the whole weekend so far. That is a very blisteringly quick purple first sector. Can he press on with it? Can the Ferrari find its way to the top of the tree? It looks very clean heading up the hill, and is not. And purple is no purple in sector 2, but it's a personal best in sector 2 at a 22.6, and Bolger is flying. Actually now we have actually worked that out, so there we go. Apologies for the issues going on with the broadcast. Sometimes a few technical gremlins, but we have worked that one out. As
oh, good. I wasn't saying much important anyway. Let's see what Steve Bolger does.
He goes P1. He goes P1 with a 23.3. There we go.
So now, with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, Greg Turra is in the pit lane and resigning himself with the fact that he's going to have to come out again if he wants to take pole position away from Steve Bolger, and here he comes.
There we go. So Turra is on the move in pit lane, so he'll get at least one more roll of the dice. I did realise that there have been a couple of dramas with the new setup here from time and time again. It's not the first time we've had not only been able to hear some people. We've I think Tim Redmond, very famously, we missed half of his interview in one of the supercars rounds, and only caught the back end of it after he was bouncing off the walls after his maiden podium. And here he is on screen, in car 43. Very nicely set up in position number 3 at the moment, and good to see there's some Kiwi support along in the live chat as well. They're supporting their fellow countrymen. They've come with a bit of a rush this year, the Kiwis, not just in supercars, but in Super 2 as well. And a lot of them find themselves very firmly entrenched in the top 10 in those championships. I think they'll be pretty pleased with themselves if they haven't already had a look at those point standings. They are doing very, very well for themselves.
There they are. It's seeing lots of people sitting close to faster sectors in the first sector, but just not quite making it. Termo was only a 10th down on Bolger going through the first sector. He's coming up to the corkscrew now, and that second timing sector. We'll see how he's going 2 tenths down, but that is currently still enough to provisionally put him in second place ahead of Greg Turra. Through the corkscrew he goes. Can he improve? It's this long last sector though, where you can gain and lose so much time, and he's gone wide, so he will not be improving.
Just picked him up there. So top 6 you can see there, separated by 3 3/4 tenths. So there is a lot of wiggle room there for drivers not only to jump up, but also to wedge others outside of the top 6 to wedge themselves in there and find some time. The one of those I'm probably looking for is Lion Mitch, who just went wide at turn 4. And as we go down the order, we're looking for the next man to see who we probably said at the time is probably Luke Rosella, to see if he can find anything. Now, what's he done in the first couple of sectors? He's PB in sector 1. He's got PB in sector 2. Not purple. But what's he on for here? He's definitely on to improve his time. And we're going to go into the 24s here. And 24.1. So he just fell away in that last sector.
Greg Turra was starting his fast lap, going through turn 1, and Rhodey in the Mercedes was coming back onto the track and got in the way of Greg Turra. They bumped stores, and that's unfortunately put pay to Greg Turra's first flying lap, so he's going to get one shot at this as he's coming around the final corner with 20 seconds to go.
Yep, so here
Bolger's back in the pits, so he's done.
Yep, so here we go. So here is the long shot down pit lane, and Turra gets across the line with 9 seconds to spare. Now behind him, there's Rhodey, so this will be the end for him. And Termo, does Termo get another lap? No, he doesn't, and he goes to P3 though, so that's important for Termo. So he
Redmond
does get beat by
his lap as well.
He did, and the next one we want to take a look at is this man, Lime Mitch, because he is on the road, I believe, if I'm looking at the lifetime. Yes, he is ahead of Greg Turra on the road and is up on his own time. at the Sector 1 split.
And he was only a 10th off of Bolger's time as well, so provisionally second. Oh, he's running a bit wide going up the hill though.
Rosella's gone to P7 with a small improvement, so that advances him just to the opposite side of row number 4. But Line Mitch
Still
found some time.
Still only a 10th in it.
Not much at all. Greg Tara's found some time as well, so could he be setting the stage for a late charge to pole position? He's just behind Line Mitch on the road. There he comes now through the final, second to last corner. Line Mitch is the one we're interested in for the time being. Can he find anything? Does he jump ahead of Tim Redmond on the order? He goes to P2, demotes Tara to P3 with his last gasp. Tara goes to P1.
Oh, look at that. Another 123 for Tara. 3/10 up. He's absolutely nailed that final sector.
What a late charge.
Denied Bolger pole once again.
What a fantastic late charge, and it was all in the last sector. It was a purple middle and a purple last sector and a PB in Sector 1 for Greg Tara that did the job at the end. So he's nailed a 23 flat in all of the practice and the qualifying sessions tonight. So that's a staggeringly good effort, and they've all come in the last little sort of couple of minutes of qualifying as well, haven't they?
Yeah, well, this time around he had that first lap compromise, so he had literally one shot at it, and yeah, he's absolutely nailed it. Very well done by Greg Tara.
So having looked up the order, so Greg Tara, Steve Bolger and Line Mitch the top 3. So a little bit of a different look this time with Steve Bolger being in position 2. Termo and Tim Redmond, Hans Brunswick, Luke Rosella, Scott Murrell, Noah Tara and Nathan Higginson is the top 10. Steve Warwick couldn't replicate his qualifying heroics from qualifying 1. He's actually starting in P11, but nothing to be frowned upon for Steve Warwick. He can definitely work a little bit of magic from there and find himself with another top 10, I think.
Yeah, 100%. If he drives as cleanly as he did in the previous race, he's pretty much guaranteed a top 10 because he just, people are going to be pushing and falling off the road around him, and he's going to be keeping his cool head driving through the destruction.
Just also noticed as well, we might having a little bit of a pause here for a moment. Looks like Termo may have had a dropout from the game, so he'd set that time, gone to P3, and I'm just looking down the order to see if he is there. He definitely is in the Discord chat. But I just noticed it has removed him from the game. That maybe had an internet drop or something there. So we'll probably are going to run the warm-up session out. So there will be a few cars I expect to take to the track, and indeed there is. So we will cover the gaggle of cars that's going out for a little bit of extra track time. So Hans Brunswick with Dane Liccardo, Luke Rosella. You've got behind them Nathan Higginson. Also out there is Tim Redmond and Matt Cecil. So they're all going out for a little bit of extra lap practice while we wait to see if Termo's able to get back into the game. It'd be a shame to lose him if he can't get back in again. But if the qualifying sessions are anything to go by tonight, the racing has been spectacular so far, Bagsy, and I'm very much looking forward to this next race, not just because we've got some new drivers in the mix that have got the potential to fight for the front positions on the rosters, and Tim Redmond being right up there as well, but I think we can satisfactorily say that Laguna Seca is definitely a big tick for the sprint race format.
It definitely has provided the goods so far. Even if this race coming up is bad, we will still have a 50% success rate, which will be good. As we can hear everyone still zipping around. Hopefully Termo comes back in because, a very good qualifying and race win. Obviously, we want to see him try and go back to back. It would be unfortunate if he's not able to get back.
Yeah, we're just waiting to get a bit of an update on if he's going to be able to make it back or not. So in the meantime, just stuck watching the guys that are out there just getting the extra bits of track time in there. I think Tim Redmond is definitely probably one of those that probably doesn't need the extra time. He's definitely one of the quick Kiwis in the Kiwi crew. And if his qualifying performance is anything to go by, he could be a little bit of a dark horse, I think, for a podium result in this one coming up.
Yeah.
GTR probably handles the corners you've seen from some of the other driving going on. The GTR definitely is capable, and there's several of them out there. And, this man, Hans Brunswick, was doing pretty well as well until sort of mid-race when he ended up off the road. But Bagsy.
Yeah, we've seen the GTRs performing quite well actually overall, and yes, especially when people come in the guest cars, they do seem to be that just perfect. You can just jump in and drive a car.
Here goes Brunswick, and he's currently the quickest in the practice session, 25 flat, but again, probably not really truly indicative of the pace. He'll probably just be doing a few little runs here just to work out where it maybe all went wrong in that first race, to see if he can improve and maybe keep it on the island, I think is probably what the terminology we've used a couple of times. Some of those corners that they've all had trouble with over the course of the night, particularly in the back part of the circuit, which he's coming up to now. This corner here is number 1, which is turn 7. And then they head up the hill here. I'm surprised that a lot of drivers haven't had too many dramas with the corkscrew. It's the corners after the corkscrew that they've all been struggling with, which is this one here, where they all tend to run off the road because of the line. You can see the marks on the asphalt where they have to go, and that's precisely what goes on there. Exactly what Brunswick has just demonstrated for us. You push the envelope a little bit too much, that is the end result.
It's sort of funny, Brunswick giving us the exact demonstration right there. I feel like everyone gets through the corkscrew and they're so proud of themselves they forget that there's another corner coming up and spear off into the wilderness.
Well, we have got word that Termo is back in the server, which is great to see. And,
excellent.
We have lost one other driver since then as well, so we're just waiting to get some updates on how things are going. I believe the grid is actually being sorted as we speak.
Yeah, who is it? So I'm trying to see who we're missing, but it's hard to find the name that's missing when you don't know what it is.
I'm actually looking down the order to see who may have withdrawn, but no one is really standing out to me at the moment. Greg Tara's in there, so too Noah Tara, Termo back in. Ricardo, Matt Cecil, Scott Murrell is in there as well. So we'll probably find out who it is as it goes on. It might, no, I was about to say it might be Glenn Miles, but no, Glenn is definitely in there, and Rhodey's definitely in there. So there's a couple of little unknowns that are going on in the last little bit of practice that we'll hopefully be able to figure out as it all goes along. We'll take a few moments here just to wait for everybody to cycle through, complete their laps. I think just about everybody has completed their laps actually. Yes, they have. Dane Liccardo, the last man, just to get across the line in that warm-up session. And now we find ourselves moving on to race 2 for this evening. Now the ASR safety car will be on the front row, Scott Nolan at the wheel, and the rest of the field will be behind. Good on the guys for keeping it mostly clean through that opening race, apart from the one or two little minor, I think that we call them the opportunistic passes now, Bagsy, because there wasn't anything really too drastic about him. But I know Lewis has put himself at the rear of this grid to start this next race, just by virtue of the fact that he believes that he's probably done a little bit wrong there. And we're just waiting for a couple more drivers to get onto the grid, and then we will be away.
Yes, Greg Taro are the ones who likes to wait until the last possible second to get onto the grid. I'm sure it's going to bite someone in the proverbial at some point where they just accidentally don't click on the buttons. Oh dear, what have I done?
Well, the next one's Rhodey that we're waiting on here, so we'll wait to see how this all unfolds. And he has missed the start, so that's that gap ahead of Lewis Wedding. So Rhodey in the pits, but we'll run you through the order for the second race here. Thanks.
Greg Tara on pole position yet again with an almost identical time to the one he set last time. He'll be looking to finish in that position this time instead of losing out like he did in the closing laps. Steve Bolger, much better qualifying this time, starting from second place. Lion Mitch starting from third. Once again, he's the first AAR car. Termo, race winner last race. He'll be looking to go back-to-back here at Laguna Seca, try and emulate Luke Rosella and his effort in Melbourne. Tim Redmond is in for race 2 in the guest GTR car. He'll be looking to shake things up a bit in the top. Hans Brunswick with a strong qualifying in the GTR as well. In 7th, it's the guest GTR's, in 6th, nice and back-to-back. Luke Rosella, he's had a better qualifying than last time, qualified 11th last time, 7th this time, but he only finished in the 11th last race, so he'll be hoping to go forwards. Scott Murrell is in 9th place. He's very quick in the first sector. We'll see if he can do anything there, but he struggles in 3rd. Noah Tara starting from 9th place. Sorry if I say these wrong because I'm so used to the number being correct, but it doesn't matter. Noah Tara starts in 9th place. Nathan Hickinson in 11th. Nathan Hickinson in 10th. Warwick is in 11th. He's looking for a clean race to get up the front. Mishra starts from 12th. Taipan 13th. Matt Cecil will start in 14th with Cracker next to him. Dane Liccardo starts in 16th. He's made the start this time. Brian Walsh starts in 17th. Glenn Miles
he's had a
round.
He's had a spin there. He hasn't realised what was catching up with the pack. But
Glenn Miles starts in 18th, and Lewis Wedding starts rear of grid. Well, not really rear of grid now because of Glenn Miles in 19th. Because of Walsh.
Walsh is going to have to recover to the field here. And
and Rhodey is in the pit lane.
There you go. There's Scott Nolan bringing the safety car into pit lane. We're underway here. Clock has started counting for the second race of the evening. Can Tara get the whole shot like he did last time? Yes, he does. And he marches away from Steve Bolger pretty quickly. And marching with him is Lai Mitch, who's had a really good start. And he will hang on to P2 at the start here. Termo trying to go around the outside of the slow starting car 87 of Steve Bolger. And on his inside is Termo. Termo's around. There's been some contact. There's major contact at the back between several cars. And Termo is nose into the barrier off of the hairpin.
So disappointing for Termo after that brilliant race 1. He's not going to be able to back it up in race 2, unfortunately. So that's just got the replay coming up now of what happened to Termo. He's taken the outside. It's always a bit dangerous going around the outside of the first corner. It looks like he's spun it up himself. I don't think he got helped there.
There was Luke Rosella behind and Hans Brunswick behind him, so I don't know if there was a little bit of contact there or not. There's of course the traction control is in GT3's factory option, so you can either have it on or you can have it off. It's completely your choice. But in this case, I don't know. I'd have to actually go back and have a little bit of a look at the onboard from Hans Brunswick and Luke Rosella there. I think Hans Brunswick was probably an innocent bystander in all of that one, and Termo spun across his nose. And that is a disaster with a capital D for Termo at the beginning of this race. So that means Greg Tara leads, Lai Mitch on screen second, and Steve Bolger has managed to hang on to 3rd place after being under siege in the opening lap.
Lewis Wedding's had a very fast start. He's up 9 positions so far. He's already in 11th place and harassing the back of Steve Warwick. So
there's another spin at the back too. There's another spin at the back. Sorry, Bagsy. It looks like the teammate cars, the teammate Lamborghinis of Liccardo and Taipan came together at the same spot that Termo had his moment. So we'll grab this one on the replay as well and have a look.
They've been bumping together the whole first lap as well. They're going at it in the corkscrew too. It was a matter of time.
Here we go. So Liccardo with a late turn in. And Taipan I don't think was quite far enough alongside there for that one. And yeah, I think there was a little bit of unintended contact there. So there's another spot gained for Termo after all of that. And Liccardo will have to fight his way back from the back of the field along with Termo. Here's an interesting battle. GTR on GTR action. The lead GTRs in this race now are Tim Redmond in 4th and Hans Brunswick in 5th. And look who's coming along for the ride. Luke Rosella and Nathan Higginson. And Noah Turra is also in there as well.
As Lime Mitch sets the fastest lap of the race here, it was a very good start from Luke Rosella. He's managed to gain a position. Actually, that's just the position that Termo has lost, so he hasn't really done.
There's actually a bit of a swap on here. Sorry to cut you off there, Bagsy. There was an attempted pass from Lime Mitch down at the hairpin at turn 2 on Turra. Turra very swiftly caught him back on the undercut. And this is on earlier, much earlier than we expected. Remember, the first race, the battle was quite close. It wasn't quite this close this early on. So Lime Mitch obviously wants to get out in front a little bit earlier this time and maybe use that straight line speed of the Bentley to his advantage.
Yeah, it looks like he's really going for it early. Just say, I remember saying about a lap ago that Wedding was going to be past Steve Warwick promptly, but Warwick has kept him behind for a lap and a half now. He's just been driving very, very nicely. As it looks like we've got a spin in the corkscrews. Hans Brunswick has gone round in the corkscrew.
Yeah, he just tried to move on Tim Redmond and it didn't come off. So already a few drivers having a few early dips at positions, and there goes Termo's recovering to 12th. So on the replay, thanks to Antara Resort Style Living, here we go. Here is the moment up to corkscrew. Brunswick sort of there or thereabouts, and a little bit of a late send. Redmond did pretty well to control the car actually, and Brunswick spins to the inside and did pretty well to grab reverse gear but avoid coming back onto the racing surface and into the path of another car, as we get a fastest lap of the race from Termo, car 51.
Yeah, Wedding said it, immediately eclipsed by Termo. He's actually come out just ahead of Brunswick after Brunswick's spin, so Woodruff Mishra is the next target for Termo. He is, how far off the lead is he at this point?
Termo,
about 13 seconds, so...
Yes. According to live timing of at ASR lead at liveracing.com, it's 16 seconds, but now you can see on the screen there it's about 14.1, so it's a little bit different compared to what the live races one is. Turning back to your man Lewis Wedding, who's made up 13 spots on the race start so far. He has finally managed to get past Steve Warwick, so inside the top 10, and good on Steve Warwick. So he's driving very, very sensibly at the moment, comfortably inside the top 10 and holding his own up 3 spots. He was a beneficiary of some of the drivers ahead that got caught up in the early calamity, and Termo not too far off his rear bumper, probably be emerging through the back of shot any second now. There he is, behind Urjit Mishra and ahead of Hans Brunswick.
I believe it's only up 1 spot for Warwick because of the way we set up with the safety cars. Everyone's got 2 positions added to their who they've passed.
Go through to Noah Turra, currently sitting in position 7, staring at this battle going on with Tim Redmond playing defence from Luke Rosella. Nathan Higginson stuck in there as well. And Noah Turra, so 2 BMWs and a Porsche trying to get past the GTR, and Redmond wide, and that's all it needs for Rosella to go through. And now Redmond's got to play defence with Nathan Higginson. This is fantastic onboard cam shots from the BMW M6 as we go to the trackside cameras to have a look at Redmond really with his hands full at the minute, trying to re-pass Rosella, who had a little bit of a slow exit from turn 7, and now Redmond is up the inside for the corkscrew and retakes position 4.
Has he got it done yet? Yes, he has, as Rosella now is under attack from Higginson. So Higginson's just attacking whoever's in front of him, and it keeps changing corner by corner. A little bit wide there, that might open the door to Noah Turra, but not quite. So yeah, this is the battle for 4th at the moment, and in the meantime, it's letting the top 3 get away, but speaking of getting away, Turra is slowly getting away from Lime Mitch.
Little move from Higginson a little bit further back as well. That will give Noah Turra a run on the BMW counterpart. and a position gain for Noah Tara. There's a little bit of a tail wiggle for Nathan Higginson. Clearly has the traction control either set to its lowest setting or it's off, because the car jumped to the right when he applied the throttle out of the last corner, and driver of car 26 was through in a heartbeat. So up a couple more spots from where he started is Noah Tara, and this pack is now split apart. Here comes Lewis Wedding with back a shot to his next target's going to be Scott Murrell, as he is currently in position 8. Wedding is 9th, and coming back to the front that you were talking about, Bagsy, they were a little bit close together, just started to break apart a little bit, so Greg's finally found his rhythm, and now with Termo effectively having a salvage job in this race at the moment, all Greg needs to do is just stay consistent, stay out in front, and he will shoot to the back of the, to the top of the points table lead, leaving tonight.
Yeah, Tomo's he's dispatched Juju Mishra, and really looking at the people ahead of him, I reckon. Oh, Mishra's gone round and going into the penultimate corner there.
He's in the middle of the track here too, so he's done very well to get out of the way. And who's that let through? That lets Matt Cecil through. It also lets Taipan through. So that's a costly spin for Mishra, because he was in position 11. He was ahead of Termo, so that's a free kick to Termo.
Yeah, I think looking at Termo, I reckon he can probably aim for, you know, maybe the Rosella Redmond battle if he really gets the hammer down and they keep fighting. I think he can recover a 4th place. Maybe a podium if one of the top 3 has a serious issue.
I think that's probably a pretty fair assumption. He does need to get his skates on though, and the next man for him has been not an easy man to pass tonight, Steve Warwick, so definitely won't make it easy, but he won't make it overly difficult for him either. Yeah, his car in all the right places, and I still think that there might be another car or two maybe that can fall out of this top 10 that would then net Steve Warwick another top 10 finish on the night, which I think would be a pretty pleasing result for him. Pair of top 10 finishes if he can accomplish them tonight. The next battle that's just a bit further up the road though is the Murrell and Nathan Higginson battle, and Murrell's just gone wide at the penultimate corner and just undone all that hard work.
Just the way of things sometimes, isn't it? You're going so well, and then as soon as we start talking about them, just bat, off it goes. And that's given Wedding a little bit of impetus to get in towards him as well.
Wedding's made pretty much ground in that last lap as well, despite Murrell's bad lap. Wedding didn't gain as much track position as he sort of has been. He's the gap at the moment sitting at roughly just over a second, 1.2 seconds, and I don't think he's making too many big gains on Scott Murrell. I mean, Scott Murrell's no slouch behind the wheel, definitely very, very quick, and looking for some more racing. That's why he's jumped into GT3s, and you can see here that he's already started to chip away at the deficit that he lost. And look at the mid-points, they're both off the road. They're both off the road at turn 7. Now Lewis Wedding's going to range up on the back of Murrell, and Murrell knows he's been beat. He knows that there's no point in defending that position.
Sorry, I've just had a bit of a lag spike and I missed a bunch of things that happened. I think the last thing I saw was Scott Murrell heading off the road. I don't know if that actually happened or not though.
It definitely did. So Murrell went off the road, Wedding was through in a heartbeat. Now we're watching Lewis Wedding attacking the back of the HME Auto Desk car of Nathan Higginson. Might fancy a pass here under brakes at turn 1. Quite close enough to send it. Next opportunity is probably going to be up at turn 4. Makes a mistake here. I don't like the idea of going up the inside here at turn 3, so turn 5. Looks pretty things better pass there.
Drive Wedding gets compared to Higginson there though. He just takes a slightly different line. Higginson runs it a little wide. Wedding is maybe looking at a move here. No, he's thought better of it, which is good because it was not really on. Oh, but he's just, wow, he's just driven right up the inside.
Yeah, poor exit.
What an exit.
And through he he goes to position 7. So next man up the road for him. He'll have to drive, he'll have to play defensive for a couple more corners. And you can see there, the next gap up the road to him. Oh, Higginson backs it in! And that was very luckily not an aeroplane crash. He completely lost it under braking, and I think the only reason he came to a stop where he did was because he hit the rear bumper of the Competition Motorsports Porsche and couldn't go any further. So I think Higginson can probably count his lucky stars there.
As can Lewis Wedding.
As can Lewis Wedding, absolutely spot on. There's that little bit of a moment for Higginson off the final corner again, the car jumping sideways. That brings Turmo into play for 9th and 8th place, who's now found himself as a recovery drive into top 10. Murrell to the inside of turn 1. A little bit of side-to-side contact. Higginson was a little bit wide there. The door was open. Murrell goes through. So Murrell seizes on the opportunity that presents itself and goes to position 8.
I'm not sure if Murrell was making that corner there without Higginson as a bit of a bumper car wall.
And here comes Turmo. Here comes Turmo. He's going to line him up at turn 6 here. No, not quite.
Houston just chops the nose off there. He's saying, no thank you.
It's okay. The GTR's got so much more speed at the moment that I think it's only a matter of time. And there we go. So time and the clock was ticking and clock struck 0 for Nathan Higginson. 00 in his case because that's his car number. And Turmo takes the number 51 GTR to 9th place. So pretty good recovery effort so far. Halfway through this race, he's gone from being in the top half dozen spots at the race start to pretty much rear of grid and has found his way back into the top 10 with only 15 minutes gone. So your prediction of where you were expecting him to finish, you know, if he can get his skates on and get into the Rosella, Noah Tara, Tim Redmond battle, is actually not too far from becoming a foregone conclusion, because this battle that you're referring to has actually changed around a little bit since we last saw it.
Yeah, it seems like Rosella's taken the initiative and is up into 4th place now. And Tim Redmond's just dropped off the back. He went wide into turn 1 as I started looking at him. And he's going to be worrying about Lewis Wedding in a few laps' time. We'll see. I think I'll have a look at their lap times as they come across the line next to see how much Lewis is closing in. But Turmo's going to be doing it. Turmo's dispatched Scott Murrell now too, so he'll be coming up pretty fast as well.
So here is Turmo. He got that move done between turns 2 and 3, so very early in the lap. You can see there Lewis Wedding just sort of marching away from this group. And he's actually made a little bit of inroads into the next man in the queue, in Tim Redmond.
The top 3 have tightened right up because they've got Greg Tara's got a bit caught up behind lapping Rhodey, and so he's lost a chunk of time in the final. Well, it's probably going to be reflected in the first sector of this lap. But yeah, the 2 behind him, Lime Mitch and Bolger, have been fighting tooth and nail, and Greg was slowly pulling away. But yeah, that traffic's brought them right back into it. And
that traffic probably benefited Steve Bolger more than it did Lime Mitch or Greg Tara, because Bolger was about 3 times as further back than what he was, and Lime Mitch has gone wide on the exit of 3, and that's all the initiative and all the information that Bolger needed to say thank you very much. I will have P2, and I can now set off for position number 1. But the question is, the Ferrari's quick. Has he got enough to challenge Greg Tara? Because Tara's been the benchmark in terms of outright pace all night long. He couldn't quite hold off the advances of Turmo in race 1, but he's looking to make amends in race 2. What about the World Series champ from last year? What do you think, Magsy?
I'm feeling like it's a bit of deja vu from the last race where Lime Mitch lets through the person who has a little bit more pace, and then they eventually catch Tara and pass him. So is that going to happen again, or is Lime Mitch going to put up a bit more of a battle and try and get that spot back from Bolger? But yeah, I think Greg Tara's going to be thinking, why is this happening to me again, potentially? But Lime Mitch seems to have the speed, that Bentley in a straight line, very fast, but doesn't want to go out too wide on the marbles there to try and affect the pass.
problem for Bolger is he has to play a little bit of defence here as well as play the attacking game. So he's got to fight two battles on two different fronts, and the second one of them about playing the defence is not the good one to be trying to play. If we have a look at the lap times last time around, it actually was a benefit to Greg Tari, did 24.7, so he actually gained a little bit of time over these two. Although Bolger's managed to wrestle 0.2 of a second of that margin back in the opening sector of this lap, and Limich actually got a track cut on the last lap as well. So I don't know where he struck that. It probably would have been on the exit of turn 3 where he got passed by Steve Bolger.
So it's sorry, I just noticed Termo is catching Lewis Wedding much faster than Lewis Wedding is catching the Redmond Noatara Rosella battle. So there's every chance Termo's going to be past Wedding before they reach those three.
Well, Lewis did say before the start of the night that Porsche was a little bit garbage around Laguna Seca. This is one of the strengths and weakness game with all the different BOP elements that are in play, because there's the mid-engine turbo, rear-wheel drive, or rear-engine and the front-engine cars. They're the four physics groups. The Porsche fits into the mid-engine category, if memory serves me correctly. And
I thought it was rear-engine.
Sorry, rear-engine category. And the Nissan a little bit of a different category, again being the front-engine cars. So there are a few differences between how these cars handle. The thing is, all the front engine cars handle the same, or mid engine cars handle the same, etc., etc. So it's a strength and weakness game here between what Wedding has underneath him to work with and what Termo has underneath him to work with, and they do have their differences, not just at this track but of course all tracks. So you've got to find a car that is going to be balanced across all the different disciplines, the sprint format, the intermediate distance format, the longer distance format, and across all the tracks. So it's not exactly an easy job to master, trying to pick your car before the season starts. You've got plenty of time to do it. Not exactly an easy task to work out what's going to be suited to all the tracks when you're looking on paper and you haven't had a chance to drive them.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you can't just as that's Redmond's heading off.
He
so
has.
Termo and Wedding get gifted a freebie right there.
So I'm wondering if we can have a bit of a look on the replay at what happened to Tim Redmond there, because he had actually dropped off the back of that battle group that he was with Luke Rosella and Noah Turra. So coming through the corkscrew, looks fine. Looks like it's going to be the corner that they've all had problems with tonight, and yes it is. He was a little bit too wide of the ideal groove and runs a bit wide, drops a spot to Wedding, drops a spot to Turbo.
Very well done by Wedding in Termo to avoid him as he was rejoining too. It's hard to, because picking a car is always going to be an element of compromise. Because we go to such a varied amount of tracks, your car is inevitably going to do better at some than others, and realistically you're probably better off picking a car that's suited to you and your driving style rather than a car that's suited to the most tracks. Because if you're just uncomfortable, even if you've got the car for it, you're going to get beaten by other people in that type of car.
Precisely, and I think this comes back to, you remember our GT3 season we had in ARW quite some time ago. A lot of drivers picked the Mercedes because it was very quick in a straight line. I personally went and picked the Renault RS01 just because I felt that was the car that was comfortable for me, and the results were probably pretty poor for me. I mean, I did end up taking race win, but that was and having to defend off Xeris for that one, which is the first win for me in a long time. But again, it's exactly what you said. It's all about what you feel comfortable with. If you can gel with a car you feel comfortable with.
Well, sorry, fourth and fifth is disregard. They were sitting side by side for the whole front straight, and they've decided they don't want to do that anymore.
Oh, no, Atara's had a little bit of a tail slide through the first part of the hairpin as well. So it's not insurmountable that Luke Rosella could find a way through here. I just get the impression that the more seasoned campaigner in Rosella is just biding his time here.
He did give up the position because he was ahead. Tara got him into the corkscrew last lap, so.
Yeah, I'm just having a look here. The little pit stop spanner flashed up just very quickly for Noah Tara, so taking it away now, but I'm hoping that some of these drivers haven't miscalculated their fuel on any of these runs, but we haven't seen anyone come in for a stop so far tonight. We have seen a few retirements. Actually, in fact, we've seen 3 in this race, which is just the latest one being Glenn Miles with Ricardo and Brian Walsh. So both the Playboy, Wildcat Playboy racing cars are out, and there's Noah Tara, and there goes Luke Rosella. So I did say it was Rosella was probably just biding his time sitting back there, waiting for something to happen, and it has happened. So through to P4 he goes, and leaves Noah Tara behind in 5th. And this battle for 6th and 7th is still going, so Wedding has been caught here by Turmo, but Turmo's not, I think, game at the moment to make a pass. I think he's sort of hoping that maybe Lewis can drag the pair of them up to the other cars as Turmo goes a little bit wide there, but thankfully he's far enough ahead of Tim Redmond that he doesn't lose another spot.
Yeah, I think we were saying that we thought Turmo might be up to Luke Rosella. It's probably a bridge too far now, but still a pretty good recovery drive from him to be able to get all the way back to 7th place, and we definitely still has a decent shot of getting past Lewis Wedding. Noah Tara isn't letting Luke Rosella off either, despite that mistake he made. I think Noah Tara is actually faster than Rosella at the moment. Lime Mitch has dropped off of the lead battle and is in danger of being caught by Rosella and Noah Tara at the moment, and at the front, Bolger has closed this gap in on Greg Tara. It's now less than 0.6 of a second, and Greg Tara will be having nightmares of the previous race because it's happening again. Someone's passed 3rd place, got from 3rd to 2nd, and has just hunted Tara down slowly.
Yeah, and their lap times across the line last time around were almost identical. 24.071 play to 24.098 in favour of Greg Tara, so there is nothing in it at the moment between the BMW of Greg Tara and the Ferrari of Steve Bolger. But and there's Lime Mitch in the background for 3rd place. So he's sort of just playing a bit of a lone hand here. I think just banking some solid points, maybe looking forward to Interlagos in a couple of weeks' time.
He's also in the position of the fact that if these two, as they're coming up on traffic there in Cracker, that is not going to help Tara's scores, but coming in on the fact that Cracker's taken himself out of this equation by going offline there. But if these two come together and bin it, then Lime Mitch is in the box seat for a win.
Now, coming back to the man you mentioned before about Noah Tara being quicker than Luke Rosella, Rosella's actually managed to kick away here to the tune of about 1.5 seconds. So he's got a nice little margin here as the race laps start to wind down. Now, he's coming up on the lap traffic of Cracker as well. There he is. And Lime Mitch is about 3.5 seconds up the road. There he is. You just see the blue car just very briefly before the camera cut away there. So what's the lap time for Rosella? It's 24.5. Lime Mitch's time was at 24.9. So it's 0.4 of a second difference, but it's going to need to take a lot more time out of him to try and challenge for a 3rd place finish in this race. But the real battle we're interested in is this battle for the race lead. It is now just over 0.3 of a second and 3.5 minutes to go.
Yeah, it's Turmo and Tara all over again, except this time Bolger playing the part of Turmo. Turmo just flows, wondering where he is, 0.7 faster than Wedding on the last lap after making a mistake right on his bumper as well. So that one could go either way too. But Greg Tara, he seems to be struggling with the tyres this race. I wonder if he did. We heard him mention in the interview last race he left his qualifying tyres on. I'm wondering if he's done that again, although just having a look, it seems like Bolger's tyres are worse off than Tara's just based on the data we can see. So it would be interesting to see how this goes, but Tara under all sorts of pressure. Is he going to crack again?
Well, Lime Mitch had a bit of a mid-corner wiggle in the background as well, and I think Rosella's really started to ramp up the pressure on the AAR Bentley as they come around the final corner. He has closed that margin down. This is getting tight. This is Fisherman's backside tight at the moment between these two at the front of the field.
Ooh.
Look at that, a little bit of a late draw from Steve Bolger as he hones in on the back of the BMW. This will be the third last lap. We're working lap 21. We're going to get 23 laps again. And as Bagsy put it rightly, the nightmare for Greg Turra possibly is continuing here. Got to keep a cool, calm head. Got to keep just hitting those apexes.
Turmoil and Wedding is side by side coming through the third and fourth corners.
And this is for positions 5 and 6.
Oh,
and Redmond sticks his nose in there. Wedding's been contacted as well.
Round.
And round they go. So I think
Wedding's going to be spewing about that. He's retired.
He has indeed, and that would then be a bit of a disappointment for Wedding, and I can understand why. Here is the onboard. You can actually see it from Tim Redmond's car. So here it was here. Turmo trying to go around the outside. There was lap traffic. Cracker got out of the way. Wedding stuck it in there. Redmond went down the inside of Turmo. That part was fair, but then he just carried way too much speed and then got into the back of Wedding, and he slowed down to give it back, but then by then I think Wedding had sort of said, well, enough's enough. So he's called it a night, and probably understandably so.
I am surprised that given it was so close to the end. I don't know why he didn't just continue on there, bank some points, and call it. It's unfortunate, but he was only going to lose 2 places there. Wasn't going to make that much of a difference in the end, and instead he's essentially rage quit and lost all the points he was going to have. So that's unfortunate for him. But anyway, we're on the penultimate lap now, and Bolger is still over the back of Turra, and Turra is once again having these flashbacks, and well, let's see what happens. We saw that Lion Mitch had already made the pass at this point, so is Greg Turra home safe yet, or is Bolger going to make a bold move?
We'll soon find out. I think Lion Mitch might be safe in position 3 at the moment. He was 0.6 of a second quicker than Luke Rosella last time around. So position 3 might be sewn up, but you can just see him nosing into the background here as well, as these guys are starting to get really racy and really competitive. And their lap times last time around were slower than Lion Mitch. They were 0.6 and 0.8 of a second slower than these two. Turra's really having to play major defense here. There's Lion Mitch. So don't count him out if these guys start to have a major drama. 125.3 for Turra, 125.3 for Bolger, 124.5 for Lion Mitch.
Yeah, I think Lion Mitch is going to rely on these two having an almighty coming together to be able to get Bolger's wide. It's wide out of the edge of turn 1. That's cost him time, and that might have cost him the race win.
Very potentially might have cost him the race win there. It was 0.4 of a second margin as they crossed the line. It's probably about 5 and 6 now as they come through turn 5. 7/10 is what the timing says there. So Turra may have just caught a lucky break at precisely the right moment in the latter stages of this race. But it's not done with yet. Don't discount a late lunge or another mistake here from either driver, but Turra hasn't really put a foot wrong with regards to mistakes all night. He just got outfoxed by Turmo in race 1, and he's just got to keep it clean here. Just got to get through the corkscrew. Lion Mitch, big send under brakes, but he just couldn't pull it up. But that will consign him to P3. No further improvement from him, and I think Turra, with 2 corners to go, might just have this one in his back pocket.
Yeah, very, very impressive drive from Turra. He's absorbed the pressure this time, and he has managed to see Brody going slow there, so he doesn't have to do another lap. He's absorbed the pressure, and he has come through to do one better last time. He's backed up his 2 poles with the race win. Bolger follows up in second, Lion Mitch in third. Rosella with a very good drive up to 4th place there, banking himself from valuable points. Oh, Noah Turra is under attack from Turmo though as they come across the line, but Noah Turra will take 5th place with Turmo recovering very nicely up to 6th there.
That's one hell of a recovery drive from Turmo as well. He basically got back to where he started the race. You can see it on the graphic there. 0 places gained or lost. So after a first lap skirmish right here where he is now, he has done a remarkable job to recover to P6. Tim Redmond,
Steve Warwick,
7th. Murrell 8th. Steve Warwick, again, another top 10. Started outside the 10. I did say that he could sneak a top 10 finish if things went according to plan for him, and they definitely have.
Yeah, he's done very well. People have dropped out, even without Lewis Wedding retiring there, he would have still managed to bag a top 10, and he did quite a good job. He was about 5 seconds ahead of Nathan Higginson in the end there, but just a very clean drive. And also his best lap was a 1:25 exactly, so a very clean best lap time too.
Yeah, absolutely well done from Steve Warwick. And that gives Nathan Higginson, I think that's probably going to be a maiden top 10 for him in GT3. Very short time that he's spent in GT3, so he'll probably be pretty happy with that. But Lewis Wedding's misfortune is Higginson's gain there. And the balance of it there, Ujit Mishra in 11th from Matt Cecil in the Audi. And then the last of the classified finishes, Hans Brunswick, Taipan and Cracker. Lewis Wedding did enough laps to be classified to get points, so he will be classed as 16th place with Rhodey 3 laps down in position number 17. He also will inherit some points for completing 75% of the race distance. All right, the top 3 gentlemen have joined us, Bagsy, and it's a little bit of a different looking top 3. Sorry, I will rephrase that. It is there is one driver in here that is not like the others, as the saying goes, and but it is a little bit of a different altered top 2 this time around.
Indeed, it is. We'll start with third, which is once again Lion Mitch. Mitch, sort of a tale of 2 races that were almost the same. You were up close at the front and then sort of get past for second, and third place just you're keeping him visual and then closing in at the end, but still not quite able to make it at the end. I'm guessing you were fingers crossed for Bolger and Tara to have a massive coming together in that last couple of laps.
Mate, I was driving the wheels off that thing for like the last 15 minutes, and they were just pulling further and further away until like the last 5 or so laps, and I had no clue what was going on.
Yeah, did you end up having to? I didn't ask you in the first race. Did you have to do any fuel savings into the end, or were you able to go flat chat the whole race?
Nah, I was flat chat the whole race.
Ah, very nice. Well done on another third place. Very consistent, very well run round, and good luck next time out.
Thank you.
Second place, the only change for this podium, Steve Bolger, who tried to emulate Turmo in race 1, but just wasn't able to get there in the end. We saw you go wide in the first corner on the exit, just getting a bit of gravel. Do you think you still had a shot at getting past him if you hadn't done that, or was it sort of already the writing on the wall for the race win there?
I think Tuz needed to make a mistake for me to get past. He had the legs. Probably I closed up on him into corkscrew. It's not the best passing opportunity in the world. So no, I was just waiting for him to make an error, but writing was on the wall from about 3 laps.
Yeah, we did see a bit of a slight look into the final corner a few laps through the end. Were you having to were you trying to strategize where you were going to do it, or was it just sort of, all right, we're waiting for a mistake?
Just waiting for a mistake. There was no way I could get past him and without doing a massive block pass and with contact, which isn't the way to go. So no, Greg done well. Great pole lap, and he deserved the win.
Excellent drive for second place, and hopefully we'll see you on the top step of the podium again soon.
Hope so. Thanks, Baggy.
All right, it's Greg. We saw you in second last race and won better this race. You backed it up from pole position. How concerned were you in the last few laps with Bolger closing in?
Yeah, I was definitely sweating. It really made me concentrate that little bit extra instead of just sort of, the mind wanders a little bit if you have a couple of seconds up your sleeve. So just seeing him in my mirrors and that half second away, it was just like, just had to get lap after lap after lap done because I knew he was probably not going to make a mistake. But it is really difficult to pass on this track cleanly, so I just had to just hit my marks and get good exits, pretty much.
Yeah, it did look like you had it pretty nailed on for most of the race, really, just sort of trying to hit those consistent laps. did you end up doing any fuel saving this race? We know you said you had a whole lap left at the end of last race. Did you just let it go, or did you still do a little bit just in case?
Yeah, I did a couple of lifts. Probably about 5 laps. I might have just lifted into turn 1. It saves you about 0.15, 0.2 of a litre. So over a couple of laps, it's more than enough actually, as it turned out. I think because the formation lap, I was actually able to save more fuel than last time. I just didn't really have to. At one lap at the end, when I was looking at the clock and how fast we were going, I was a little bit panicky that we were going to go too fast and get one more, like 24 laps out of it, which I don't think we would have. Well, we didn't, but yeah, no, my mind was, I was like watching the mirror, looking at the clock, checking fuel. Yeah, it was hectic, but that's so much fun racing like that.
It was a joy to watch as well, and well done on going one better in race 2.
Thanks, Bagsy. It's good to see Noah get a couple of fifths as well. That's good. Good points.
Yeah, very much so, and plenty of excellent drives up and down the field. Don't you agree, Nether?
Absolutely. Probably aside from Greg's 2 pole laps, the second place finish in race 1, the first place finish in race 2 tonight, there definitely have been some good standout drives, some good recovery drives as well. So Termo's recovery to back up his race win in race 1 probably is very, very important for him for his championship. He was behind in the lead up tonight by only 2 points. He did take the lead in the championship after race 1, but that has now swung back the other way in the standings after race 2. Greg mentioned Noah Tara with some good, solid top 10 finishes. Likewise, Steve Warwick, probably not some results that we've seen in some of the other series that he's been a part of so far since joining in with ASR, but probably very, very satisfying for him to get a pair of top 10s in the Bentley. And there were plenty of other drivers there that I think could probably rue some missed opportunities of what could have been just by making some of those silly mistakes, and ended up falling outside the top 10 and probably would have been hoping for a little bit better.
Yeah, I think especially Hans Brunswick, he would be a bit unhappy that he hasn't been able to capitalise on what was excellent qualifying laps. And I think just a couple of small mistakes in there for him, unfortunately, cost him. But yeah, still some very good signs and very good drives there, though, regardless.
Absolutely. And those drives will continue when we get to the next round, which is going to be a 90-minute encounter on the 26th of June. So just a little under a month from now at the Interlagos circuit, or if you want its technical name, it's the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache in Brazil. Home of the Brazilian Grand Prix, home to some GT3 racing that we have been accustomed to seeing over the course of time, and one Steve Bolger was slowly starting to arrive on the scene when we last went there. We hope you can join us. We hope that the Floodman, Michael Zalavari, will be back for that one. And until then, we'll see you next time. Bye for now.